Everyone could please rise for the invocation to be delivered by Reverend Bob Browning, First Baptist Church. Reverend Browning, thank you for being here with us. Always good to have you.
Would you bow with me in prayer? Every day is a gift from you, but I do believe this is one of your finest. We thank you. We need some more gifts from you tonight. Everybody in this room is unique. We're different in so many ways, and we even have differences of opinions. However, we have two things that are in common we must never forget. We are friends and neighbors who need each other. And if a disaster hit this community tomorrow, everybody in this room would pitch in and help anybody who needs that help. And the second thing, Father, we have in common is that we love this community. We love our old Kentucky home, but in particular this city, Frankfort. And all of us want to make it better. So tonight, would you grant us wisdom and understanding and insight and courage? Will you help us always to build bridges of goodwill and understanding and even reconciliation instead of walls of separation? Will you also help us to put names and faces and stories with every complex issue and every decision? And I guess most of all, will you help us to do what Micah encouraged his people to do when he said, always do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with God and each other. For these gifts, I thank you. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Mayor Pro Tem Robert Roach.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Sorry. Their microphones close to them so they can hear it out.
All right, ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mr. Roach? Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
Mr. Bowers?
Here.
Mr. Hedden? Here. Mayor May?
Here, we do have a quorum present. Next item is approval of minutes from July 15th special, July 22nd regular, and August 5th special.
Mayor,
Commissioner Bowers?
I had a problem with one of those sets of minutes. It was the minutes of July 22nd. On page 2 of those minutes, it says, Commissioner Bowers expressed concern about the definition used to describe gender identity. It was moved by me, Commissioner Bowers, to change the gender identity definition to one psychological sense of male or female, maleness or maleness. Following discussion, the motion was withdrawn. Actually, what I did there was ask the question why that definition was not changed, because in the July 15th meeting, I had made that recommendation and no one on this commission objected. And so I was asking the question, why was it not done? I think that we did have some discussion after I then had to make a motion because nobody owned up to they had not objected to it. But it failed for lack of a second. No one seconded that. So if we could correct that, I would appreciate it. So I guess I'll make the motion that that be corrected. It failed for lack of a second.
Mr. Mayor, I know the city clerk and the assistant city clerk listened to the tape about 3 or 4 times of that meeting. And so this is as close as they could get
Okay.
to exactly what happened that night, listening to that tape. If you'd like them to listen to it again, they will, but this is what was reflected on the tape.
Well, there was no second, am I correct? Nobody seconded that motion?
That is correct, there was.
So it failed for lack of a second, actually. There was no second, Mayor. No one heard a second on that tape, did they?
She'd have to listen to it again, just because they
There
listened.
wasn't a second. Everybody actually said that they had not agreed to that change, when in fact they had the meeting before. So if it's not going to be changed, I'll just have to vote no, and that's fine, but
We can listen to it again, go back. If you want to just approve the other minutes, if there's questions about one particular meeting minutes, you can exclude that tonight, and we can address that at a future meeting.
okay, that's fine.
So if someone wants to make that motion, either way.
Well, I move that we go on and approve the minutes from August 5th, which I will not vote on because I was not here, and July 15th. So can we have two motions, one for each set of minutes? Would that be,
Well, your motion was approved August 5th and July 15th.
well, here's what I will move. I will move that we.
Do you want to withdraw that
approve-
first motion?
Yes, I will.
Thank
I
you.
will withdraw, and I will move that we approve the minutes of July 15th.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Bowers, we approve the July 15th, 2013 special meeting.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Haynes. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call roll.
Mr. Roach?
Yes.
Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
Mr. Bowers?
Yes.
Mr. Hedden? Yes. Mayor May?
Yes, we do need to do some kind of action on the July 22nd, whether it be to pass over for future approval or changes, and August 5th.
Well, I would move that we make that change that I suggested. And since it, I guess, dies for lack of a second, now I'll move that we pass over July 22nd meeting minutes.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Bowers, pass over July 22nd, 2013 regular meeting.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hayden. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call roll.
Mr. Roach?
Yes.
Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
Mr. Bowers?
Yes.
Mr. Hedden? Yes. Mayor May?
Yes, that July 22nd meeting will be passed over and put on the next regular meeting agenda. Okay, we still need to take up August 5th, 2013 special meeting.
I'll make a motion, Mayor, that we accept the minutes from August 5th.
Moved by Commissioner Hedden,
Second.
second by Commissioner Haynes. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Roach?
Yes.
Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
Mr. Bowers?
And I will just abstain because I was not here for that meeting.
Mr. Hedden?
Yes?
Mayor May?
Yes, August 5th meeting minutes are approved. Okay, next item, we have ceremonial items, and this is when we recognize our employees who are retiring or being promoted. And tonight, we have several promotions in the police department, several in the fire department. I will call on Police Chief Mark Wilhoit to go through the list of those who are retiring, and afterwards, we will ask those to come forward. We'll present retirement badge, plaque, and any other items that we have available to these folks. And also with Major Deaton retiring, I'll take just a couple of seconds, if I may, to say how much I appreciate his 34 years and 2 months of service. And Major Deaton has been a fantastic person to work with over the years. When I started on the commission and when I became mayor, he was a captain when I became mayor. So I've watched him over the years progress through the ranks, and the last several years he's done the media relations for the community, for the police department. Really hate to lose Fred, but you get to move on to other things now, and you put your service in. We deeply appreciate that. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Board, if you'd indulge me for just a few moments, I've got a couple things to say about Fred as I present him his retirement badge. But first of all, he's my loyal sidekick and a very good friend, so I want to thank you for your service to the city and to me. Now, of course, He's our public information officer, but he was instrumental in the Citizens Police Academy, of which we've had 15 classes over 7 years now. Drug Take Back program. He's just taken that and just made it his program, and it's a testament to his hard work. Now, the State Journal did an article about him, but it kind of covered the highlights. But there's a couple of things about him that the article didn't cover. First of all, if you know Fred, you know he's a Ricky Nelson fan. He's the resident expert on 60s pop music, and he's our department Renaissance man. Of course, he's an actor. He's been in the movie Secretariat. I don't remember if he was the front end or the back end of the horse. Actually, it was a little typecasting. He played a press person, so he got to wear his traditional plaid jacket and look very sporty in his 1974 attire. So, actually, I expected Fred to retire probably 8 months ago because I thought he was cracking up. The stress of the job. And working with me, I'm not always the easiest guy to get along with. But in our offices, you can hear people's phone conversations and discussions with other people. And I heard him talking to somebody, and he said, Walter, which is my first name, is chewing on the furniture. Walter kept me up late last night, and then later on in the week, Walter quit peeing in the floor. So I had to ask him. Turns out Fred also loves basset hounds, and he rescued a basset hound that was named Walter. So it's already named that. He didn't name it for me, but I thought perhaps after a hard day he may go home and mistreat the dog, but he assures me that's not the case. Fred, I'm going to miss you, buddy. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We also have a retirement plaque that we award to our retirees, and we usually appreciate the service. It came as a surprise to me the other day, and we're going to have a retirement reception, I'm sure, so we'll do the proclamation for you then to honor you for your service. But thank you so much for your service and your friendship, and look forward to continuing to work with you. And Gail and Jared, thank you guys for giving me great support at home to come and do these things. You all know how difficult it can be, and for 34 years and 2 months and however many days, I guess it's going to be 34 and 2 months run on it, but thank you again for all that you've done, and we appreciate it so much. Thanks for having me around.
Now, in defense, they do say that the best time to start thinking about your retirement is before your boss does. So I'm probably very fortunate that I got in under the wire on that. But I do want to say that I am thankful to have been part of the Frankfort Police Department for more than 34 years. I've met some really great people and forged some wonderful friendships, both within this police department and our fantastic Frankfort community. I also want to thank the very dedicated and professional law enforcement officers with which I've had the privilege to serve through all these years, as well as our support staff who keep things running behind the scenes. It takes a lot of conscientious, caring people to make it a police department run smoothly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. These are truly Frankfort's finest, and I wish my fellow officers and Chief Wilhoit all the best in the future, as well as our current city leaders, who I've always found to be very caring about this community and to work well with their department. If I may borrow a line from a famous movie, beginnings are scary, endings are usually sad, but it's the middle that counts the most. I have been blessed to spend an awful lot of my middle with the Frankfort Police Department and the City of Frankfort. Thank you all very much.
You still gotta come to work tomorrow.
I'm sorry, I didn't recognize our sheriff is here with us tonight, Sheriff Johnson. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for your service. And it's also kind of fun to say that I myself am 34 years old in 2 months, which...
Thank you for pointing that
I guess we started around the same time.
Thank you. Anybody?
Congratulations.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Enjoyed working with you and also knowing you.
Thank you, Doc.
All right, our first promotion tonight is,
Mayor, we have one more retirement. Police K-9 Johnny,
oh,
who's got a torn
absolutely.
ACL.
Absolutely. We're retiring a police dog tonight. Sergeant Mike Frazier's K-9 Johnny has put in 7 years of service and is in poor health and will now become a family member for the Frazier family.
Thank you.
Our first promotion is from Captain to Major, Captain Rob Richardson. Captain Richardson, bring a family member for the pinning here. He's going to be promoted to Major. Currently, Captain Richardson is assigned to the detective section. He's, of course, been involved in many aspects of the police department, and this is a very proud day for you and your family, a well-deserved promotion, and I expect to get a lot of work out of you. So congratulations, Rob. Are you going to take some photographs, Chris? Yes. If you'll just stand right there.
Thank you and the girls for all your support for Major. We're honored to have you. Watch you.
Sorry, if you put it on upside down, you can't wear it until the first, actually, so we'll fix it by then. Our next promotion is Lieutenant Walter Martin from Lieutenant to Captain. Walter's been with us for 18 years. His family here, Rebecca, and children Tanner and what? Melissa. Who do you want to pin you at? And the father-in-law? Oh.
Rebecca's put up with it for 18 years. She deserves it better than more than I do. I know which way to go.
And it's always good to see our folks go through the ranks. I remember when Lieutenant Martin, now going to be Captain Martin, came to us many years ago, watched his career go up the ladder quickly too. Walter has been great in so many aspects of the department. He's now going to move on to being a shift commander. The last year and a half or 2 years he's been over all the special events. He's done a tremendous job in all of that, making things safe on streets and roads for our folks, and we look forward to your continued service. Thank you so much for serving us.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
About $3.
Yeah. Collar state, there's a collar state. Our next promotion is from Sergeant to Lieutenant, Sergeant James Ebert. Sergeant Ebert is currently our evidence sergeant, so he'll be going back to the street. His wife Shonda and daughter Katerina. Lieutenant, did you finally catch up with your military rank?
I did.
He's a lieutenant in the Navy Reserves.
We appreciate Sergeant Ebert, who's now Lieutenant Ebert, working with us. I remember the opportunity to swear him in. He came to us, so it's really kind of full service circle to see these folks stay with us and do the service and commitment to us, that they go through the ranks and do such a wonderful job to protect everyone. Thank you all so much for your support. You do a great job.
It is. Now, I've always said the promotion from patrolman to sergeant is the hardest one to make. It's the toughest transition, and sergeant is probably the toughest job in the police department. We've got a great candidate here, David Shorlucky. Please come up. Bring your family with you. Wife Kathy and daughter Patricia. David's been with us 9 years. He's been on night shift a lot, but he also is on our bicycle patrol squad. So he rides the bike. He gets to see the daylight every now and again when he rides the bikes. So if
And Sergeant, thank you for your service. I had the opportunity to swear David when he came, and had an opportunity to ride bike with him. Fantastic. Thank you for bringing the other family to our community, staying with us. Thank you for seeing you out and doing the job that you do. Next, I'll call Chief Sloan forward for the fire department promotion.
Congratulations for the promotions.
All right, just as the police department, we have quite a few promotions tonight, and if I could, if everyone would come forward from the fire department with their families, come on up.
fire department, come on up.
There's a stage down the hallway there.
Staging area, first person.
I think we'll
Somebody should stay around and see how it works.
First of all, just as Chief Wilhoit had said, the first big step is going from firefighter to sergeant. Tonight we have Casey Watts. Casey's been with us for about 3 years, and he's one of the first people that I worked with in the hiring process and was able to recommend. And he hasn't let me down. You always worry that you'll have a little buyer's remorse later, and then Casey certainly hasn't done so. So, Casey. And with Casey is his daughter Annabelle and his wife Courtney.
Just look younger to me.
Y'all don't mind waiting a little bit while we do these. Thank you, Casey, for your continued service. Remember when you came to, just watching you guys go through the ranks, it's gratitude also. So thank you very much for all the support and all the stuff.
Next, being promoted from sergeant to lieutenant is Sergeant Brad Case. Brad, if you come on up. Brad's father is in the back of the room. He retired with us with over 20 years of service, so that's something that's noteworthy. He's a second-generation firefighter for the city of Frankfort. And Brad works on he's currently on our rescue, he's currently on our rescue truck. He is one of those guys that doesn't require a whole lot of supervision, and as a supervisor, that's something that's really important when you have employees that are able to function on their own and do such a good job. So, Christy, his wife, and the two girls. I can get this right. Ella and Libby. I get them mixed up. They're so close inside.
Thanks, Brad, for your continued service. As I said, the legacy of firefighting passed down from one generation to the other is something that, and Wayne, here was to thank you, Wayne, for coming back to support Brad in his career. We thank you, ladies and gentlemen, all that support these folks at home. It's a very tough job.
Something else about Brad, he is one of the firefighters in the last couple of years that really worked hard on getting the 27 La France that we have. It's a truck that's used several places, and 2 or 3 of the guys that really didn't have to took a whole lot of work. And that's the type of stuff they do every day, not just the stuff that counts, but the stuff that. So, thank you, Brad. Being promoted to captain is Lieutenant Ben Boggs. Ben is the one name I know I don't know so far, so it's too new. But his wife Melanie. Ben is the son Benjamin, and your daughter's name Laura. Ben is the senior firefighter on the department right now. He was actually one of my he would have been one of my mentors when I came on. So, Ben, congratulations. He's been promoted to captain.
Had the opportunity to work with Ben for the last several years too, and not to say anything but positive things about his leadership in the department, taking care of the station, and now he's going to be taking care of a whole crew as captain. So thank you all for your support.
Congratulations. Next, being promoted to the rank of battalion chief is Captain Wayne Briscoe. Wayne is he's an EMT instructor. He's a paramedic instructor for the department. He previously served as our EMS director. He came to us in 2002, and he's stepping up. He'll have his own shift as a battalion chief, which is really an accomplishment. And look, the time they served as our EMS director will be very, very helpful as we move forward and being a battalion chief.
Congratulations, Wayne. I had opportunities to Wayne in too. That's quite an accomplishment to go and 11 years to go to battalion chief.
McKenna and Karen. Okay. That is what is best. I was just talking. finger is 2 years.
Good job. Congratulations.
Wait, congratulations. Then last, we have John Hayden. John Hayden has been promoted to from battalion to chief to assistant chief. John's been working with us for 15 years. Prior to working here, he worked in El Paso, Texas, and moved here, and glad to have him. He's got a lot of hopes and work for John ahead. So with John is Michelle, and then John, I will have to get the name.
My daughter Ashley, my future daughter-in-law, Natalie, my son Jared, my son Aaron.
What about the baby?
He introduced you on the grandbaby of Jackson.
It's also great to see John go through the ranks, because in 1998 I had the opportunity to swear John in, now Chief Hayden, and to go through the ranks publicly again. Thank you for all the support you all done at home, your wonderful family. We look forward to many more accomplishments with you guys in your leadership. Thank you, Chief Sloan, for all of your dedication and all these folks.
That's it.
We also have a check presentation from the Garden Club, Frankfort Garden Club, and I will turn it over to our Parks Director, Jim Parrish, who knows all the details, and I'll let you explain the details in one second. Check. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you, Mayor. We have with us Joy Jeffries from the Franklin County Tourism Convention Bureau, Robin Antonucci, who also formerly with the tourism and head of the beautification, now director of the Civic Center here in Frankfort, and 3 ladies from the Frankfort Garden Club, Karen Nance, president, Pat Jevedon, and Sarah Bell. They're telling me their names. So they have adopted a beautification program in Frankfort on Wilkinson Boulevard. I think back when the World Equestrian Games came, you remember the landscape dial that we did down by the Corman Railroad Bridge and by the Farmers Market. At that time, they presented a check to the city of Frankfort for $9,000, and we partnered with them through the Frankfort Parks and Recreation Beautification Division, and did the project where the little bronze horse is in commemoration of the World Equestrian Games being here, known as the Cocoa Island. So that's when you buy those little bronze statues, they're already named. So that's Cocoa. So, but we partnered on that. They have come back with another presentation for phase 2 of the beautification project, which they have adopted. This is the Wilkinson Street corridor. It's in five phases. It's the 5 phases. It's the Wilkinson Street Boulevard all the way down to the railroad bridge. I'll show you this here in just a minute. But it's the medians all the way down through Wilkinson Boulevard in front of the Capitol Plaza Hotel, all that to beautify the city, coming into the historic district of Frankfort. And so we're getting ready to start on phase 2 that we'll show you here in just a minute. But this is what they're partnering with the city of Frankfort for, and I'd like for one of you all to say something.
That's crazy.
All down through the...
Thank you, Jim, Mayor. This is the second time that we have been able to come before the council and present a check. And we were so very, very pleased with our first installation on Wilkinson Street and Parks and Recreation in the city. We're just proud of it every time we go by. So the Garden Club of Frankfort has adopted as our community project the Wilkinson Street. So tonight's check will be for the second phase of the Wilkinson Street project. And I'm very happy to do this, Mayor.
Thank you all so much. Making it look so nice.
I would like to say one word, and that is, no, it's two words. Thank you to both the Garden Club and City Parks and Rec. We just had our Tourist Commission meeting last week, and I can tell you, we never have, ever have a commission meeting at the Tourist Commission without recognizing what Parks and Rec does for us. You all need to be certainly patting them on the back because they are so integral to things that happen in this city, and I can tell you they jump to help us every time, and we're very appreciative of it.
Thank you, Joy. And just to reiterate, this is now $17 at the Frankfort Garden Club. $17,000. I kept it. $17,000 in the last 3 years that they have donated to the city of Frankfort. That's great. Thank you.
I just whispered in my ear, which we should have recognized. This is coming from the proceeds, Mayor May, from the home tours that we've been doing for several years. And they could give this money to anybody for any project, and they have chosen to give it to beautification. And I can tell you, we wouldn't have those islands without them, would we, Jim?
Thank you all so much again for all the great work that you've done over the years and for the future work. We're very glad to be partners in the city of this. We'll go cash it. We're Steve. We'll get it. Yeah, what do you want? You know you're going to be efficient, right?
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We also have another presentation. The Parks Department, we're going to call on some folks where they're going to vote deeds and acts. An incident happened at the pool. I'll let the Parks Director give some details, and then we will just give special recognition to all these wonderful folks. Thank you all so much for being there.
Thank you, Mayor. As most of you read in the papers and saw on television a few Fridays ago, we had an incident at the Juniper Hill Pool. And what a phone call that came in from the EOC from Tommy Russell. And I received it and rushed to Juniper Hill Pool to check on the incident. And tonight we're here to recognize some very heroic people that did their jobs, well trained, and saved the life of a little girl. Thank you. Tonight we have our pool manager for many, many years, Larry Montgomery, here with us. Kelly Caldwell, who could not make it, who trains all our lifeguards and has for almost 20 years. And she had a, believe it or not, a pool thing to go to. So, good for her. But one of the guards, Kirsten Nitz, could not be here. She's back at school in college in Chicago. But the first responder was Emily DeNegris. She was on the stand, blew the whistle, responded, went in the water, got the young lady to the side. Then EMS showed up and helped carry out the operation. But there's a term why they're called lifeguards. And being on duty and being efficient and watching out for things as Emily was that day, we thank her very much, and she is a hero.
pool staff, we want to thank everyone. It was a total team effort. What we practice, what we go through each day. Kelly Caldwell, who trains our lifeguards, works with them on a continuous basis, couldn't be here today, but she was also right on the spot with the others, and we really want to thank the quick response of the Frankfort Fire Department EMS. I mean, they couldn't have been there any quicker, and they also are a part of this spoke in this wheel, which helped to save a young life of a young girl who was celebrating her birthday that day. Thank you very much.
Thank you all, and just to let you know, I went and checked on the little girl, and the incident happened on Friday. She was checked on Sunday. She went home. She went to school on Wednesday, so all is good. Thank you all. Thank you.
That's all right. Don't worry about it.
Okay, thank you. Next item will be, did everybody get back in that wanted to come back in?
No.
So I don't know what the capacity is right now, but the fire marshal will count our folks to see how many folks were here. We're limited to 100, so we apologize for any inconvenience with that. This is the capacity of our city hall, so that's what we live with. And we have the overflow room across the hall and the council boardroom. So if anyone who's not able to find a seat in here, please feel free to go in the boardroom, and we are actually live streaming, I think. Okay. And just to remind everybody, for those that have not been to a city commission meeting before, we have an area on our agenda called citizen comments that we allow folks to speak on issues of concern, whether they're on the agenda or not. And we have a 5-minute rule that we go by. The city attorney will keep the time on his stopwatch and will let me know when 5 minutes is up, so please kind of keep an eye out. We always hate to interrupt people when you're speaking, but we do have to adhere to our rules of procedure, and we ask that you try to wrap that up when we give you the nod or call out that your time is up. We also have requested that when someone's speaking that you give them your full attention and you don't interrupt with any type of comments, and this is, just remind everybody, this is a government meeting, so when we have our work sessions and some of the public things, it's a little bit different, so please try not to, just, if you don't mind, just don't clap between people speaking. We certainly appreciate the rules that we have to live by, and we will follow, so just please don't make any comments when someone else is speaking, don't refer to someone by their first name, and I realize there's a lot of rules to keep up with, but please adhere to those, since this is a government meeting and this is not a public hearing or anything. This is the actual government meeting, so we would ask you to follow those, and we will remind you if you don't. So if anyone would like to come on under citizen comments, just please come to the lectern. State your name. You do not have to put your address, and just let us know what issue you're talking about, and we'll go from there. Also, as a reminder, if anyone here is here to speak on behalf of a group or an organization, we allow that group 30 minutes of time as a block, but that means if someone speaks on behalf of a group or an organization, that nobody else comes up and speaks on behalf of that organization. We give a 30-minute block, and I did have a request from a group to have 2 people come up and make a presentation at one point. So at this point, we'll just open it up for anyone who wants to come and talk about any issue that is of concern? Oh, Reverend Hughes, go ahead. You may, sure. Go ahead, Reverend Hughes, if you would like to, you can be first. If you just state your name for the record so the city clerk can get that logged in, we would appreciate it.
Wade M. Hughes, pastor of the West Frankfort Church of God, 35-year resident of this city, and I'm so glad to be present.
Reverend, could you pull the mic a little? Okay. Thank you.
Is it loud enough now?
And we can
You have to
hear
get really close to it.
All right. Is that all right there?
That's good, thank
Can you hear now?
Thank
All right, I'm Wade Hughes, pastor of the West Frankfort Church of God. Very proud to be a 35-year resident of this area. My ancestors fought in the Civil War, in the Revolutionary War. I'm a direct descendant of Daniel Boone's dad, Squire Boone, and all that. Graduate of the University of Kentucky, pastored 59 years, 35 here in town. Now, the issue that is before us and being discussed is not actually a new issue. It finds its roots far, far back in human history. It goes through the Roman Empire, it goes through the Greek Empire, and it goes far earlier than that. And many times this issue has been very divisive. But I do not stand before you here with rancor or bitterness, but rather to address the issue as I understand would be best for our community and for our future and our tranquility one to another. And I see around these shirts with their preference there and fairness, and I certainly am for fairness. But as I understand this, it could be construed, if passed, to be less than fair to all members of the community. Now, as we find in the Word of God, back into the Old Testament, homosexuality is called by a very serious name. It's bad. And coming into the New Testament, in the book of the Romans, it is very bad there. And you can read it for yourself. I do my sermons principally on Sunday morning and Sunday evening, and this is not construed to be a sermon, but it is a caution that any society that identifies as deeply as our society is now, we are absolutely slouching toward Sodom. And it troubles me to feel that the community that I love so well will be leaning that direction. In my limited judgment of 82 years, that is not a good thing to do. I respect those that do not share the same views that I do. And if they want to marry in their own gender, that is their business as far as I'm concerned. But my conclusion is, and I've studied it quite a while, that two bulls will never make a heifer. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to remind everybody, if y'all would remember, I said, please no clapping. If we continue to do that, then we're gonna have to, we'll adjourn or just stop the meeting until we can get that under control, since this is an actual city government meeting. So please remind everybody again, let's don't do the clapping and thing on either side on any issues, please. Okay, next.
Hi, thank you for hearing me speak. My name is Maria Ernst, and I'm speaking on behalf of Frankfort Fairness, a citizen group, as a member of the steering committee. We represent over 200 Frankfort residents who have been actively involved in supporting the ordinance. We would like to sincerely thank the Board of Commissioners and all Frankfort residents who have discussed, debated, and helped shape Frankfort's fairness ordinance. There are still many misconceptions about what the ordinance will and will not do should it pass. We're here to remind folks that this ordinance is simply about protecting the basic civil rights of all individuals, regardless of their race, color, religion, nation of origin, sexual orientation, disability, age, gender identity, or familial status. State and federal civil rights acts have enumerated protections only based on race, color, religion, national origin, age, sex, disability, and familial status. But no such protections currently exist for lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender people. Without the same protections, LGBT individuals can still be legally fired from a job, denied an apartment, or kicked out of a restaurant or park. The Fairness Ordinance takes a stand to say that our city respects the basic dignity of all people.
Good afternoon. I'm Bob Paget, also on the steering committee from Frankfort Fairness. We wanted to follow up with a couple of other issues to finish Bria's comments. I think two of the main things I wanted to point out were some of the main myths that were going around at the beginning of this, was that this ordinance was going to require churches or force them into hiring persons they did not want to hire, who did not align with their feelings. It was going to force things into the gay marriages into the churches. And of course, it does not do any of these. It is strictly restricted to housing, fair housing, employment, and public accommodations. There are specific exemptions for religious institutions and the businesses that are run strictly by the religious institutions to exempt them from such things, because it would not be right to force someone to say, you must have somebody a member of an organization. That we wouldn't support that either. And it does not do that. It also worried about the small business persons in the town, that it would require them to, as landlords, to hire or rent to someone that they didn't agree with or didn't feel it would fit in their house with them. Especially people were of great concern of the small businesses, small owners, small renters, who needed caretakers within their home, would hire somebody, needed a room rented out within the home, and felt like the law was imposing upon them who they could have in their own home. Again, it does not do this. There are exemptions. Employers who have under 8 employees generally are exempted from the law completely. Within your own home, hiring and who can be within your own home in a house, a room within your house is exempted. So it is not trying to force the will down to the very individual. It is trying to protect and raise to the level the rest of us have in protections. We believe that this is widely supported. I've looked at some of the numbers on the Facebook page that we run just before I came over, the latest. You're all familiar with Facebook, and I'm fairly new to it. There were over 1,120 persons who had said they'd like the page. That's 1,120. Of those that break down in statistics just like baseball does, to the nth degree, 865 of those were listed as their home address in Frankfort. So it was no small contingent who were proud enough and vocal enough to come and say who they were on the Facebook page and express themselves, and they were from Frankfort. I want to wrap up by saying very quickly that I've been up a couple of times talking and said things about exercising our democracy and stuff, and this has been a long haul, long slog for all of us, both sides. And I, frankly, am still amazed at the great civility. We have great disagreements. This is one of those issues that does come out oftentimes in black and white to us, even though we don't think there's a lot of gray in it. We do think there's a lot of gray in it, but it has been a well-rounded discussion. Everybody's had their chance. It has been a thorough due process. Frankly, I'm going to be around. We talked about people after the meetings. How many will be here next week? I hope to be coming to many more for many issues, and I look forward to working with people on both sides of this issue, because there are many. I was at a parking summit that you all really missed. It was a grand one, but with Commissioner Head and Commissioner Roach, and look forward to working with both of them and talking about things like that, parking issues. There are many issues. It's been very good to work with everyone, no matter the outcome. We're proud to have been a part of it, proud of the democracy, and proud to bring equality to a whole segment of the population that doesn't have it now. Thanks.
Do you have anything? You all, that was it? Okay. Thank you all. Thank you all for everybody understanding the rules that we're under. Okay, anybody? Yes, ma'am. And this gentleman's going to go, I guess, since he's. You can go after this gentleman, ma'am.
My name is John Norfleet. Back in 1957, I was in the Army. I was raped while I was in the Army. I am very concerned about the school system. I'm very concerned that little boys and little girls will be holding hands, walking down the halls, and kissing and so forth. I don't think it's right. It's wrong, and everybody knows it's wrong. So we've got to do something to protect our children from this pedophiles and this homosexual thing that they're trying to bring about all over our country. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am, if you want to.
The schools.
The schools are excluded, you
The schools are excluded, even though I didn't get a second when I brought that up.
My name is Margaret Raymond, and I'm not a professional speaker, I'm not a pastor, but I do have strong Christian beliefs and strong concerns about this amended ordinance. As I said, I am a Christian, and I am an ambassador for Christ. I'm a special person to God, but I am not any more special than other Christians who are also ambassadors for Christ, who love Jesus the Savior and follow him and try to follow him the best they can. True followers of Jesus would agree with me that Frankfort, Kentucky, and any town should welcome any person, regardless of race, color, religion, national origin, familial status, age, disability, or sex. However, they would also agree with me that you should not add gender identity or sexual orientation to this list of differences in people. Why do I say this? It is because gender identity and sexual orientation, if it is not what God created a person for, it is a sin. In the book of Genesis, as Reverend Hughes already mentioned, it mentions homosexuality. And Sodom and Gomorrah, those ancient towns, were destroyed because God was angry with people for being homosexuals. In the very beginning of the Bible, in Genesis, I think most of you know that God made the first person, Adam, and his wife, Eve, from Adam's rib. This was the first heterosexual couple who our Creator made for his fellowship, for marriage, and for procreation. There is not one place in the Bible in which God approves of any type of other sexual union. And further on, in Corinthians, in the New Testament, Paul admonishes people who profess to be Christians, but who are still doing their wickedness. In Corinthians chapter 6, verses 9 and 10, it says, "Do you not know that the wicked will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived, neither the sexually immoral, nor the idolaters, nor adulterers, nor male prostitutes, nor homosexual offenders, nor thieves, nor the greedy, nor drunkards, nor slanderers, nor swindlers will inherit the kingdom of God." Everyone in this room is a sinner. And some of us are saved by Jesus and some are not. But there is not one reason why we should call a sin something good when God says it is wrong. Therefore, I plead with the Frankfort Board, Mayor, and Commissioners, for the sake of everyone, please reject this amended ordinance, which would violate God and promote homosexual and other deviant sexual behavior in Frankfort. Please, let's call a sin, so that those we love will know that they need to turn from sin and ask Jesus to become their Lord and Savior. Please don't blind them to the truth. Homosexual behavior is a sin. In Matthew chapter 7, verse 21, Jesus says, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven." In other words, if you don't listen to God, if you don't do things his way and receive Jesus as your Lord and Savior, you're not going to go to heaven. And you're not helping homosexuals if you pass this thing. You're blinding them to the truth. They won't know that they need Jesus as a Savior. I would like to conclude by asking everyone in this room who are my brothers and sisters in Christ to bow your head with me, because I would like to say a prayer for
I'm sorry,
God.
can't pray. I apologize, but I have to enforce what the Constitution and the law would.
Oh, we had an opening prayer. All right, then I will.
I'm sorry.
All right, then we won't pray, but I will just say a little bit more. And I did write notes because I am not a professional speaker, and I wanted to hit the most important notes. I just hope, I'm not praying, I'm hoping that the Frankfort, Kentucky Board of Commissioners will reject these amendments regarding homosexuality, which would oppose God and hurt everyone. And I hope, and I'm not praying, but I hope that you have the wisdom, the strength, and the courage to do what is right. And I'm just hoping that you will do what is right. Please be led by Jesus. If people in this room who say they're homosexuals say they love Jesus, then they will turn from their wicked ways and they will have normal lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ruben. Yes, sir.
No, we can't pray out loud. My name's Edward Schreiber. But I did say a prayer back here.
It's okay.
I want to address y'all. This is my first time in public speaking in a meeting like this. I can tell you right now, there's some of them in this room that know me, some that don't. I spent 28 years on drinking, drugs, alcohol, out on the streets, homeless. I lived in missions clinic, or the mission over here for 10 years ago. I could never figure out what happened to me, why I lived that kind of life. I can tell you, my God, Jesus Christ, saved me. He pulled me out of that. Brother Hughes was the first pastor I talked to, although there was Christians that asked me to come to church and I wouldn't listen. I had no idea. I took baths in churches the whole time. But I also, like the man that came up here, was raped by a homosexual when I was 14 years old. And he done it inconspicuously in front of my family. Becoming a friend, I go over to the man's house and I'm held down in a bed. I never said nothing to anybody. I know the man's name. Okay? I don't know how to find him now. I forgive him. I love him. I love everybody in this room. I work with the homeless over here. I want to tell you something. We serve an awesome God. And there is truth in the word that's in that book. AA did not change my life. I tried. NA did not change my life. Jails, prisons did not change my life. And believe me, if you looked at my record, I've been in your jail here. Pretty nice facilities in there. But I do go back to the prisons and the jails and witness to the inmates. I don't care if they're Muslim. I don't care if they're gay. I don't care what they are. And as far as gay goes, I've got a friend in Lexington, and it really surprised me. I walked up to his house, and he's got 2 females living with him, and I will say they're lesbian. I've known them for a long time. They're friends of mine also, but it really surprised me. She is reading a book. She was reading a book, Who Am I in Christ? So she is searching. So even the gay and lesbian community do search for God. I would just like to say that this God is real that we serve. And anything done against him is just like Sodom and Gomorrah, like Brother Hughes said. I read about it. They said, don't look back. I'm not looking back at my past. I use my past to learn and to go forward. And by the way, I was raped more than twice as a young kid. And that was part of me staying where I was. I was scared. I was in fear. This city, I own a business here. I've shut it down because I couldn't afford the taxes. And if I decide to open up another business here, it'd have to be, I ain't even gonna go there. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Schreiber. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Barbara Brewer. am a Christian, but I'm also many things. I'm a mother, a grandmother, great-grandmother. I was a military wife, still am a military wife, because my husband was a two-time Vietnam veteran. My son is 3 tours in Afghanistan and 1 in Iraq. If you ever had anything to do with the military life, you would find out that your freedoms were very few, those of us who served. There were many things in my career that were not fair. I was sitting in Berlin, Germany, and my mother passed away. I made it to the Frankfort airport, but my son and I stayed 2 days there trying to get a flight out, even with help from the Red Cross. I didn't have a lot of money. My husband was a sergeant. And I stayed there 2 days, and then I called my husband to come back to the airport and pick me up in Berlin. I called my father and told him that he didn't have to hold the service for my mother because I couldn't get home. That wasn't fair. I have lived in many different places over my husband and I have been married 46 years, 47 years. I have lived around about every nationality. I have friends that are of every nationality. In Hawaii, my husband got a trip to Hawaii because he had served in one of his trips to Vietnam. And I had a Vietnamese lady on one side and a Korean lady on the other side, and black neighbors and white neighbors, and who knows. And I had a neighbor ask me one day, how do you understand these people? And I said, you listen. You listen. And I've never had a problem. I don't have a problem with anyone here. But I think it's unfair that the rest of the community is being forced to have fairness ordinances. Is there a fairness ordinance for the Christians? Is there a fairness ordinance for the white people? The Indians that were taken off of their reservations and put on reservations, I'm sorry. Everything was taken from them. Was that fair? No. I don't think we need a special fairness ordinance. I have lived for 67 years, and I've had a few difficulties in my life, but for the most part, I've struggled. I've worked. I'm one of 10 children, and we were all taught to work, to be good to other people, to be fair and honest with other people. And if you live your life like that, it's not very, I don't know how I'm saying it. Anyway, you're not probably going to run into a lot of trouble. But I just feel like this is something that's being kind of shoved down your throat type thing. And I just feel as though this is the wrong direction. Just the wrong direction. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brewer.
Thank you. And thank your family for their service.
Thank you. I'm Howard Bowman. I'm Director of Missions for the Franklin Baptist Association. I'm whoever speaking for myself. And today, of course, this commission is finding themselves at the crossroads of a tremendous debate. And you've got a lot of decisions to make, and you have to decide whether you want to make the gay, lesbian, and transgender persons a special protected class of citizens. There are many in our community who believe this is the wrong direction for this great city. Please remember, when we had the constitutional amendment vote, that over 62% of the people in this county voted in favor of men and women in marriage, and we cannot forget that. It's apparent from your previous meetings, however, that there seems to be enough votes to pass this, and we're quite concerned about that. However, even if you do have enough votes to pass it, does not make it in any way the right thing to do for Frankfort. If you approve this ordinance, you may have the belief that you will end discrimination. That is far from the truth. This ordinance will only cause a greater gap between the supporters and those who hold a different opinion. Sadly, by thinking you stop discrimination, you are creating an opportunity for many in this community who hold a different opinion to be discriminated themselves. Again, many of our citizens are asking you not to pass this ordinance. Realizing that you have enough votes, you've already displayed that. So I want to take also another direction, if we would. Because you see, on both sides of this debate, guess what? We both think we're right. Many have shared their heartfelt reasons why they think you should or should not approve this local law. At the last meeting, I saw, however, an opportunity to make this ordinance somewhat more palatable to the general public. You had the ability not to make our children a part of this controversy. However, this commission failed to exempt our little children from being placed in a position for which they are not prepared. A very wise man once quoted Jesus in saying, "If anyone causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a millstone hung around his neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea." Now you may or may not accept those words. I personally do. And therefore I'm asking you, I'm pleading with you, I'm saying, please, 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 protect our children, exempt our schools from this.
Mr. Bowman?
Yes, sir.
There, even though it failed in the last meeting, that since they're considered in some respects a state agency, that
Okay.
the schools within the city of Frankfort would be exempt because it can't apply to them under the
Okay,
law.
good. Robert, why didn't you tell me that? I wouldn't have spent
I'm
all
sorry
afternoon.
about, sorry about
doing
that,
this.
bud. Sorry about that.
All right, let me back. I thank you for that, and I appreciate that very much. And I would like to very quickly comment. The one gentleman said it, and I think it's so true, that both sides of this controversy have very heartfelt feelings, but at least both sides have been, I think, very, very cordial to each other, and I think that's important. But again, I want to encourage you, do not pass this ordinance. Mayor, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Oh, sorry.
Hello, I'm Joyce Bender. I spoke at one of the other meetings where I reminded you that we're dealing with civil law, not God's law. I also want to tell you tonight that I'm not special, but I'm not wicked. I'm also not a pedophile. And I'd like to make sure that people understand that pedophiles are interested in harming children. Gay people are not. We are all in adult relationships. We love our partners. We are not trying to prey on children. Please, everyone needs to kind of keep in mind what the situation is here. We're talking about accommodations. No one is going to accommodate a pedophile. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Rayburn, and I believe that this is a very sad evening. Individuals and groups with politically motivated agenda have come into our fair town, pun intended, with smoke and mirrors, and have created imaginary problems where none existed. Several people have come forth in our previous meetings and told of bullying incidents. However, nobody has produced any evidence of discrimination in housing or employment based upon one's sexual orientation. Even at this 11th hour, I exhort and admonish you to finally do the right thing for the vast majority of your constituents and vote against the so-called fairness ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rayburn. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Jack Lee.
Jack what?
Jack Lee, L-E-E. I've been speaking with several folks about this ordinance, and I think there's still maybe some question that could be clarified in this. Concern is that if I'm a small business owner locally, I have a bakery or a photography, and a same-sex couple comes to me and asks me to cater whatever their wedding ceremony, and I say because of my religious beliefs, whether Christian or Muslim or whatever, that I cannot do that, would I be in violation of this ordinance?
Well, if it's less than 8 employees, this ordinance will not apply. Correct?
That's correct.
So if it's more than 8 employees, then that's where the cutoff is.
But
Well,
that's,
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Oh, also, it's over a time period, so for instance, your catering business might have 7 employees and like 30 weeks later, there may be more, so isn't it, there's a time criteria in there, correct?
There's not really a time criteria, but there is an exemption for someone who holds a sincerely held religious belief. They would not be subject to having a citation issued to them for violating the ordinance unless the city of Frankfort has a clear and convincing, strong reason for wanting to enforce the ordinance against you.
to try to answer, we don't know. Mr. Moore is sharper than I am at the law, but it appears when you read it that you would be exempt. But, as he said, if the city believes they have a compelling enough state interest to require it, then they would go to court. And then what would probably happen is, we don't know. The local, and that's one that's going to go all the way as high as I would predict that it would continue to go up, because the city's going to have to meet a very high level of standard to be able to have an overriding compelling interest over the individual. But, you know, the way judges are, I don't think we know how they're going to rule.
So that, I think that point's made, that there's still not clarity there. And then the other point is that what makes the difference whether it's 7 or 8, 2 or 10? I mean, it's the issue, the topic, whether it's right or wrong or should go one way or another. Why do numbers make the difference all of a sudden?
Because that's what the Kentucky State Legislature determined when they passed the anti-discrimination statute for the state of Kentucky. They indicated that with respect to employment, that you look at whether or not an employer has more than 8 employees. And so the city merely adopted the standard that's used by the state.
Well,
And
surely
if you would like to, I guess I would recommend that you go back and look at when the state drafted and passed that anti-discrimination statute, because of course there are many, many competing interests. You have, issues, economic interests that are involved. You have forcing, a person that only hires 1 employee. They took into consideration a lot of different factors, and that's why the city commission, I think in its wisdom, adopted the same definition that the state uses.
Now, surely they set the precedent, but once again, my question really hasn't been answered. What makes the difference in the actual topic? And I encourage you, please, if you're going down this path, please make it clear so that everyone understands, so that we don't find ourselves into some legal quagmire later on that drags on for years and costs all of us thousands and thousands of dollars, and stress and frustration on both sides, please.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Is there anyone else?
Hello, my name is Sherry Geisinger, and I'm just a regular person, and I just wanted to ask a point of clarification, because I educate our son at home, which means we use the public library in the city of Frankfort considerably, and I heard you mention the school system was not going to be under this ordinance. Do you know how this ordinance, if it were passed, how it would apply to a facility like the public library?
Do you want answer that, Mr. Solicitor.
In terms of your use of the library?
In terms of the fairness situation, my biggest concern, and the lady that got up and spoke, I understand where you're coming from. I know you guys are parents. I know you want to protect your children just as much as I want to protect mine. There's people out there that would use this ordinance as protection to cross the line, so to speak. In other words, will apply to sexual identity, and it's possible that a person that has is physically maybe a male, but has an identity with a female, and they choose to use the women's bathroom, that concerns me. These kinds of things should not be allowed. And I think you all understand that that can get very complicated, because I want, already right now, when my son uses a facility, because he's a boy, he does not want to go to the bathroom with his mother. He's 8 years old. He's a boy, and he needs to go on his own. So I already am the hawk that looks after him. And I understand also, one of the things, just to back up, is a lot of times a child's experience with sexual abuse is more likely to come from somebody that they know or somebody that they're related to. So I understand that we're talking about a very slim chance, but this is my son that we're talking about, and I'm sure these are your children that you're talking about, and I don't want that statistic to happen to my child. And so I want our community to be in alliance with me as a parent to protect our children, whether they're children of same-sex couples, or they're children of heterosexual couples, or they're children of divorced adoptive parents, whatever the situation may be. And the library is a public facility as a home educator that I use often. I was just there today, as a matter of fact. And this ordinance, I'm concerned, will be used as some sort of umbrella of protection for people who have this identity issue for them. It's not really an issue. I guess it's really clear for them, but it's not clear for me, because I'm concerned. So that's what I'm asking. How does it apply to the public library?
If the public library, if the public library is a state agency, then this ordinance would not apply to that state agency. Okay?
It's a city.
It's not a city library, okay? It is the Frankfort Franklin County Library, but I don't know whether, just like we have the Frankfort Franklin County school system, okay? If they're determined to be a state agency, then they would not be covered by this ordinance. And they would instead be covered by the state's executive order, which you would need to take a look at. Now, if it's determined not to be a state agency, then I think with respect, you don't have to worry about public housing, because this is not housing. You're not worried about employment, because they're going to be required to follow this with respect to employment, but I assume you're not worried about working there, so you might be worried about them allowing anyone to use the public library, but they're allowed to use it now anyway. So I don't know that this...
I'm talking about the bathrooms. I didn't make that clear, obviously, but I'm talking about the bathrooms.
What the library would need to do is they would just need to come up with a policy that governed the use of the bathroom, where men would use men, and whether they're biological or whether they're if they have the biological male parts, they need to use the men's bathroom. If they've got the biological women's parts, they need to use the women's bathroom.
Okay. And if they are hermaphrodites, they get a choice.
But if you're bisexual, I mean, I'm not trying to, all I'm trying to say is, you're voting on this tonight, and you don't have these answers. And that's not acceptable from my perspective. I'm a parent. I want you all to take your job from a perspective of a parent, to protect our people, our children. And you know, maybe I'm just one of those other crazy people in your mind, but you know, this is my child we're talking about. And I don't know if you all have children, but it's a serious, serious issue for me, especially because I'm a home educator, and I'm already over the top when it comes to safety. This boy, he can't wait to move away, you know, because he's just like, his mom is driving him crazy. All right, so you don't have these questions answered. I think that's unacceptable, and I think you need to really look at this perspective. I care about people. I want people to, you know, be happy, but we need safety. Thank you for your time and your attention.
If you'll give us your phone number, or email address, we'll get information for you. But
I've emailed everybody here, and the only person I received an email response from was Mr. Roach, that's sitting right there. And so you all have my email address, and I will be happy to give it to you again.
Understand, but with some of us, like my whole screen is filled. There's no way I'm going to be able to respond.
I'm just saying that this was what I wrote in my email, and I'm glad that you're interested now.
We've been interested from day one.
I know you have, but again, this answer is not been settled, and you're voting. Is that true?
Yes.
It's unacceptable. Period. Okay, my 5 minutes is up. You already told me, so I'm going to leave. But I'd be happy. Do you want me to give you my phone number in front of all these people? Because I don't really feel comfortable with that.
No, you
okay.
don't do that.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Mayor.
I think he was going to be next. Did you want to? You were going to be next. Okay, just go ahead.
I'm Scott Rollins. I'm a minister at Highland Christian Church here in Frankfort.
Thank you.
And I've just got to say how disappointed I am in hearing from so many who avow the same faith that I hold, that they are so gripped by fear of those who are different, those who they disagree with scripturally. I must say that I disagree with them scripturally on the particular issue of GLBT concerns. I also feel that this is so motivated by fear and being correct and right and in charge that there's a hard temptation to just lash out, accusing GLBT people of being pedophiles, for instance, of the implication that we can't allow our children around them. There's also, and it hasn't been hinted as much tonight, but these outside groups that come in. Well, I'm in the fairness group, and my kids are in the same class with Commissioner Hedden's twins. Today I was at a board meeting with Commissioner Haynes. I live here. I plan on living here quite a while. I would really apologize to those who get slammed every time a Christian minister gets up here, it seems, and says how they're going to hell because God really doesn't love them enough. It's sad for me. And I'm of the vast minority of that view in the churches in this town, and I regret that. But I wanted it to be said to the GLBT people that not all Christians are convinced that they are on the slippery slope to hell. But again, this is a civil issue and not a religious one. And so I hope you will do what is fair and right and allow those who happen to be GLBT to engage in the same behaviors publicly that the rest of us do. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mayor,
Yes.
based on Miss Sherry Geisner, was that it?
Guys.
On page 6, it talks about the provisions of this subsection shall not apply to, and A says restrooms, and it goes on to identify distinctly private places. So is that you should not be concerned about restrooms, am I right, Mr. Solicitor?
Said that's right.
So it actually identifies that as this does not apply to those private kind of spaces. And then to Mr. Jack Lee, actually it's a question for the attorney. On page 2 of this ordinance, I knew I got that time criteria from somewhere, and so I want to make sure I'm understanding before I do vote. This employer states a person who has 8 or more employees within the city in each of 20 or more calendar weeks. So, like back to your thing about a catering, I used to work for an entity that used to do some catering, and I don't know how many we did a year. It seems like we didn't do a whole lot, but different jobs would require different number of employees. So, Mr. Solicitor, am I right to understand that this would mean the employer had to have 8 employees in 20 consecutive calendar weeks, or 20 weeks in the whole entire year?
It's 20 weeks in the entire year.
In the entire week, so pick them at random weeks. So like with a caterer, say you do 16 events in a year, and maybe 4 of those events require 8 or more employees, it would not apply to that business, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Does that? I know we got an email about a photographer in New Mexico who refused to photograph a lesbian wedding and had a loss, or what happened? The higher court ruled against her. Am I right? But that's a different state, so I don't think that case would end up with the same result based on this ordinance in this state. Am I right, Mr. Solicitor?
I didn't read that case, so I'd have to look at it.
Thank you, Brad.
Yes, I'm Gary Hager. I'm the pastor of Westview Baptist Church here in the city of Frankfort. And I too was at a meeting with Tommy Haynes today, Commissioner Haynes, and as well as my fellow minister that just spoke. I do feel that it is sad that people have the misconception that because people are gay or lesbian or of a different, say, sex change orientation, that those people will spend eternity in a place called hell. I do not believe that the Bible teaches that people are going to spend eternity in a place called hell because of their sexual orientation or anything of that nature. The misconception that people have about the Bible is that the Bible teaches that God is holy and that man is sinful, basically sinful. We all are born with a sinful nature. We're all sinners. Everybody in this room is a sinner. We're all doomed because of our sin. And God sent His Son, Jesus Christ, to die for man's sin. That's the reason Jesus came and suffered and died on the cross, for man's sin. It's not the sin that sends an individual to a place called hell, whether you believe in it or not. It's the rejection of God's Son, Jesus Christ, that causes people to spend eternity separated from Him. And so, brother, where
Pastor Hager,
stop?
Pastor, just
Okay.
direct your comments through the chair, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I do feel that this ordinance is wrong. And the reason I feel that it's wrong is because it's contrary to the Word of God. And the Word of God strictly teaches that it is wrong. And so these individuals that have this lifestyle that they prefer to have, I do not want to interfere with their lifestyle at all. But I still think that what they're trying to do is a stepping stone for future events that will affect us as Christians. And as a believer, in the Word of God. I believe that we all need to trust Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior. He is our only hope. He is the way, the truth, and the life. And so I would encourage those that are struggling with their sexual orientation, that they come to know Jesus Christ, because He can change your life and make your life worth living. I just do not see how anyone that doesn't trust Jesus and believe in Him, being a Christian is the greatest thing in the world. It's just knowing that you've been forgiven of your sins. Whether you have a specific sin, there are those that struggle with alcoholism, those are struggling with drugs, there are those that are struggling with a lot of different issues in their life. But Jesus can forgive us and cleanse us from those sins and make our life worth living. So I would like to encourage, not only I have been rather taken by the ministers that have been for this, as much as the ministers that have previously spoke, that feel that it's a shame that the other ministers are against their position. So I believe that people need to trust Jesus, believe in the Word of God, apply it in their own personal lives, let Him have first place in your life. And every one of us struggles with different sins. Whatever it might be in your own personal life, you have issues, but Jesus Christ is the one that can deliver us from our sins. So if this commission votes this ordinance in, it is going to be the beginning of disaster within this community and this state. And so I'm against it, and I will continually be against it. I will not go away. I will not change. I am going to stand for what is right. I don't care how many go the other way, but I'm going to stand. I'm going to express. I do invocations here at this meetings, and I do invocations in the Senate and the House. So I will stand, and I am not going away, and I don't believe any of these Christians that are gathered here tonight are going to go away either. And we're going to remember, if this passes, we're going to remember what has taken place here tonight.
Thank you very much.
May I say something?
Good. Commissioner.
Thank you for that. Just also remember that as a government, it was founded on religious freedoms. And although Jesus Christ might be many of ours,
Let's don't clap, okay?
but
Thank you.
we're still based upon religious freedoms, and not all of us have the same gods, not all of us have the same beliefs. And I respect everyone who's speaking, but try to keep that in mind as well when it comes to the governing body.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. My name is Nancy Lynch, and I come here as a mother, as a social worker, as a wife, I've worked in this community. My husband has lived in this community, his family, for 4 to 5 generations since they came from Ireland, have been part of Good Shepherd Baptist, or Good Shepherd Catholic Church. I grew up in the Baptist church. I grew up with the hymns, peace, love, and joy like a river. I sing those songs to my son almost every night. We sing praise songs. But the one thing, the reason I'm up here tonight is because he asked me, he said, go up there, Mama, go. He wanted me to come up here because we talk about peace and justice in our home. We talk about civil rights. We've been to the movie, The Butler, this weekend. We talked quite a bit about that movement over the last few days. This is a civil rights issue in my mind. This is peace, love. It's about peace, love, and joy. And I will go home tonight regardless, knowing that I have spoken in favor of fairness in this community that I want to raise my child in. I have raised my child in, I'll continue to. And I hope that he knows that when we leave here tonight, and is proud of the fact that I've spoken for the fairness ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm a Frankfort resident. I also run a business here in Frankfort, and I have rental property here in Frankfort.
And then a little closer to the microphone and your name.
My name is Reese Yost. I'm a resident. I'm a business owner. I'm also a rental property owner here. I'm also an atheist. Don't get me wrong, I have a lot of Christian friends. I'm not even ashamed to say that my parents and one of my sisters are Christian. But it's just not for me. I just find it a little unnatural. But that being said, as a business owner, property owner, I would just as easily hire or rent to a Christian as I would to a lesbian. In no small part because legally they have a right to housing and to employment, regardless of their way of life. So I just suggest that we extend those legal rights as far as they'll go.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm Joyce Fry. I'm a resident of Frankfort, and it's really hard to sit here and listen to all the hate and the fear, and I'm really having a problem with people talking about being a Christian and how those of us who are gay or lesbian
Ma'am, could you speak up just a little bit?
or bisexual are sinners. For one thing, we don't legislate religion. And I appreciate what you said, Commissioner Head. I didn't hear it all, but I appreciate what you said. So let's all just keep in mind that we don't legislate religion. We're not all Christian, and so therefore the laws shouldn't be based on Christianity. And that's a major, major fact. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Fry, I'm sorry.
My name is John Gantley. I think I can move that back a little bit. I'm not hard to hear. Ladies and gentlemen of the commission, I would like to remind you that words have power. In the revision to the Chapter 96 Fair Housing Ordinance, you repeatedly refer to gender identity and sexual orientation. I don't know if any of you went to Webster's Dictionary before you started working on this and looked at the definition of orientation. Webster says that is a usual general or lasting direction of thought, inclination, or interest. If the revisions to this ordinance are passed tonight, you open up the citizens of this city to possible persecution from every imaginable human sexual perversion that can come along. I informed this commission before that the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Kentucky states in no uncertain terms, no human authority shall in any case whatever control or interfere with the rights of conscience. It doesn't say whether I have 2 employees or 20 employees. It doesn't say whether I want to hire a person or not based on my rights of conscience. Mr. Moore kind of failed to mention.
Don't refer to this solicitor.
The gentleman speaking about the state law rather failed to mention that the state law against discrimination does not contain the words gender identity or sexual orientation. The state law does not, in its wisdom through our Constitution. The federal law does not, in its wisdom, through our Constitution. I don't see how a city commission can be led into the erroneous thought that it can enact changes to an ordinance contrary to our constitutions. The final thought I would have for you is political courage always equates to moral cowardice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gannon.
Good evening. My name is Joyce Squire, and I did not plan on coming up here to speak until I got here tonight and I was listening to everybody. I just want you to know that I am a Christian, and I do love everybody. But I feel like tonight you all have such a large issue on the table that I have a question for you. With such a large issue on the table, why only 5 people get to vote? Why can it not be put out on the ballot to let everyone have a chance to vote on this? Why could not this be tabled and done this way to be fair to everybody? Thank you.
Thank you.
May I answer that?
You can.
Oh, and go ahead.
To put it on the ballot, and we, at least me as a commissioner, have known this for quite a while, that if you ever want to put anything on a ballot, it starts with a petition. And to put it on the petition, and then it gets on to a ballot with so many signatures. I don't know the number of signatures offhand. But when it comes to a majority voting on a minority through historical past, I would not be up here today. Commissioner Bowers would not be up here today. Commissioner Tommy Haynes would probably not be up here today either. Because the old white men would have kept it that way, and they went to vote, they wouldn't have voted us in. It passed. Excuse me. The amendments never would have been passed. They passed in the House and in the Senate. They didn't pass with the ballot.
Well, I only have one last thing to say. You all have the vote tonight. How you vote, you will be accountable to that vote when you die. And I just want you to remember that.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Christina Libby, I actually have a point of procedure question. I realize I'm not on the city commission, but do you take motions from the floor to end citizen comments? I apologize for the laughter, but I'm not joking.
That's okay. Commissioners can do that to limit, we can limit debate.
Can I then give my 5 minutes?
Absolutely.
I won't take my whole 5 minutes, promise. I do not ask for the citizen comments to end because I can't take any more or anything like that. It's that I honestly don't feel like anyone is saying anything new. If you've attended all of the meetings, like I'm sure many of us here have, I apologize. I don't mean to critique the uniqueness of everyone's thoughts and opinions from tonight, but I would just like to put out there that so far tonight we have not heard anything that we haven't heard already. And I think that you all have all the facts, and I think that everyone here is interested in the outcome. And to be completely honest, I don't mean to say that I know the future, but I don't think that anything new is going to come out of our citizen comments. You're only going to hear the things that you've already heard many times before. And I would just ask the rest of my citizens that are here tonight to remain respectful if anyone else does choose to continue to speak. But before you speak, to think, has this been said before? Does it need to be said again? And when are we going? Thank you.
Thank you.
Since this is an open forum, I do choose to speak.
Earlier tonight, a gentleman asked the question that if he owned a business here in town and a gay...
Miss, would you state your name for the record, please?
Eunice Montford. If a couple came to him and asked him to photograph them and he refused, would that be a violation of the fairness ordinance? I don't think anybody has the answer to that, but I can tell you what just happened August the 22nd in New Mexico with this very situation. On August the 22nd, in New Mexico, the Supreme Court handed down a verdict on this case. The case involved the photographer Elaine Buchanan, who had declined to use her artistic expression to photograph a same-sex ceremony between two women. She helped the two women find another photographer to photograph the same-sex union, but they still filed a complaint against her with the Human Rights Commission. Last week, the New Mexico Human Rights Commission ordered the Huguenots to pay $7,000 in fees to the two women who filed the complaint, but that's not the bad part. The bad part was what the Supreme Court Justice said in regards to this situation. Justice Richard C. Bossum stated that the defendants were compelled to compromise the very religious beliefs that inspire their lives. And you know why? The judge went on to say it's the price of citizenship. That's what we're afraid of, that kind of thing. Here's something else that has just happened in the city of San Antonio. This just happened. The San Antonio City Council, under the leadership of Mayor Julian Castro, has just introduced an ordinance there. And this is what the ordinance says, to put it in brief. It says that anyone who has ever in their past expressed any kind of opposition to homosexuality is forever barred from holding any kind of city office. You think it's a joke? It's no joke. This is before the San Antonio City Commission right now. This is what we're afraid of. I'll tell you that right now in the military, this is going on right now as well. A military member with 19 years of honorable service was just relieved of his duty because his openly lesbian commanding officer objected to his views that he thought traditional marriage is between one man and one woman. He was commanded to go through re-education. He refused, and this is now going, I don't know if he's going to be court-martialed or what, but he's been relieved of his duties at this point. This is what we're afraid of. And I'll tell you something that just happened to me personally. I've had a number of encounters over the last several weeks. This just happened to me personally. I shared this already with some of you. Someone called my office with the sole intention of trying to get me fired. I talked to them myself. They told me that, and I tried to talk logically and sensibly about this thing, that you have a right to express your views openly and publicly. You have a right to practice your beliefs and so forth, but so do I. Under the First Amendment, I have the right of freedom of speech. Under the First Amendment, I have the right of freedom of religion. This person told me in no uncertain terms that when it came to opposition to the Fairness Ordinance and homosexuality, they did not think I had the right to speak out publicly. And they told me personally they wanted to speak to my boss with the sole purpose of trying to get me fired because I was a human resource manager, and they didn't think I had the right to hold that position because of my views about the Fairness Ordinance. That's what we're afraid of. And you can laugh about it. You can do anything you want to, but it is a very real situation and a very real fear. You say we're afraid? No wonder we're afraid. This stuff is happening all over the country. We're being targeted as Christians. We're being targeted because we oppose things like this. And we're basically being told to sit down and shut up. We don't want to hear from you. That's what this guy told me. He basically said, sit down and shut up where this issue is concerned. And I can tell you, I'm not going to sit down. I'm not going to shut up. And you may vote it in. But this won't be the last of it. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Ms. Montford. You know, if you all keep clapping, we're going to have to ask you to leave. I'll remember that too. Sorry. Anybody else?
My name is Everett Hawkins, and as you can tell, I am an old white man. I don't apologize for that, and I would like to say to you that have been minority groups that have been mistreated throughout the past, I apologize for that, if I had any part in doing that. But I also feel very good about our country and about the Constitution that a group of old white men drew up that has been very, very workable for us for many years. It has given us a freedom that I can be a Christian, a freedom that someone else can be an atheist, and that we can all live together as people and we can have community together. I look at my own life and look back at the oppression that many of you have experienced in the past, and I could never understand why we did that at that time. But it offends me that a sin group, whatever your belief may or may not be, is trying to jump on to the coattails of a man like Martin Luther King Jr. and the issue that he brought forth in our country that opened up our eyes to a minority group being persecuted because of the failure of the past. Sin groups are not minorities. And when you open up the can of worms that you guys are opening up, what makes a pedophile is what age you determine consent. What if in the future consent gets lowered? Pedophile groups, would they come forth and say they're being discriminated against? What about the restroom issues? See, I personally think that the best way for us to remain solid as a community is to let a man that looks like a man physically, and I don't want to be the person that checks out those things, but if they are a man, they need to go to the men's restroom because that's who they are. Same way with women. Let us not try to define what a person feels inside, because once we get to the point of that, we're going to open up something that I don't think any of us want. I think that there's wisdom in our states and the laws that we have made in many cases, but the government sometimes can overstep their bounds. Do we have a guarantee that the exceptions will remain exceptions? Or once this commission votes its in, can those exceptions be, people come forth and try to eliminate the exceptions? Probably. I am an old white man, and
You're
I
not
can't
old.
change that. I cannot change. I'm more, how old? I'll answer that.
No, I said
I
you're
have
not
to,
old.
oh, I have to go to Medicare this year. But I can't change that. That's not who I am. I could change the sin problem I have in my life, but I am what God has made me. And I'm not going to say that I'm sorry for that, for that is who I am. Watch what you open up. And I am against the ordinance. Thank you.
And thank you for the mocking. I greatly appreciate that, old white man. Just note this also protects anyone over the age of 40 as well.
I came in from the other room. I couldn't help it. Aaron Wright, resident of Kentucky, and from my shirt, I'm in favor of this ordinance. The woman who spoke last, I actually sympathize with her for the threats that she received at her office. I think it's a shame that one individual would make bad choices and the rest of us be blamed for them. But on the other hand, I think it's a little dose of perspective for what a gay or lesbian individual might be faced with every day for their private life choices, being called at the job, being harassed for their sexual orientation decisions, having their job threatened because of their sexual orientation. So as I can understand how that probably made her feel very uncomfortable, I wish that this woman would also think on the other foot how uncomfortable our gay and lesbian friends feel on a daily basis with that type of behavior. That's
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
My name is Louis McLean from right here in Frankfort. You know, it's again we've heard both sides of this thing a number of times, and we're back to choice. And you know, we're looking at probably 3 different meetings. We've asked something about putting this thing on a ballot, and now I find out that tonight, at the very first time it's been spoken of, other than my question to city solicitor at the last meeting, that the process to go through as far as putting it on a petition. And I can assure you that had the information came as freely as it did tonight a month, 6 weeks ago, you'd have whatever number of petitions that you needed and/or signatures. Now, if it's not already obvious, yes, I do fall into the same category. I will tell you tonight, you can mark it down, that there is a personal perspective to this that's being driven by, you know, out-of-town influence. We talked about, you know, we've heard about Facebook numbers being in, you know, less than 1,000. And we're talking about a city population of over 27,000. I will tell you, throughout the career and throughout my life, I've been a proponent of people that were less fortunate and trying to do the best we could about giving opportunity. At the same time, I also understand that I've got to face my kids and my wife and my family and know that I'm trying to do the right thing. And the people that, you know, would choose to squelch that voice, that's unfortunate, because this is about citizens' comments. And until the last citizens made their comment, they had the right to do so. But I also will tell you that whether through petition or not, this will be on the ballot. Now, unfortunately for the commissioners, and it's probably already a known fact because of the way that this has been dealt with, that the commission election is going to come before the mayoral election. But people's memories for this they're not going to get Alzheimer's on this. It's not going away. They will remember that. So again, and it's not about leverage, it's about doing the right thing. But this thing is not, again, we talked about it being about fairness. It's not been about fairness. No, because this community bends over backwards to be fair with everyone. You know, it's going to end up creating a special committee. Whereas, why would it not just be under the same committee, whether it was at the local level or at the state level? Yeah. So, I applaud the city solicitor for doing the best job that he could as far as trying to put this thing forward in the best light possible. And I do agree with the young lady who spoke earlier in the fact that you got an entire room that's been waiting for a vote. And again, you all cast that vote. But as was said earlier tonight, the way that that vote is cast, it'll be remembered in this election and the next election, and those thereafter at the same time. I understand trying to do the right thing. You know, as public servants, that's what you want to do. But it's been pretty obvious that you've not been able to answer questions about my kids and my grandkids. There was mentioned tonight about challenges that have already happened, that are already taking place, that are taking place right now. But you have no idea what's about to happen in the future with changes. We have no guarantee of that. I went through the emotions of feeling like that we weren't being represented as far as a community.
Time's up.
Understand? But I also know that my God's in charge, and I have to settle with that, and knowing that whatever takes place, He's still going to be in charge there, regardless of the majority on this commission voting tonight or not. Thank you
very much. Anybody else before we go ahead?
My name is Homer Allen. I didn't intend to speak tonight, but I have worked and retired in this community. I've been here for more than 40 years. I'm 77 years old. All of those things are rather neutral, but the next thing I'll tell you will divide you. I'm also homosexual. And for the sake of me, I cannot figure out why so many people have so much fear and animosity about me being treated equally, treated as they would want to be treated as they treat their neighbors. I'm very thankful there is a separation of state and religion. I'm thankful there is a protection of the tyranny of the mass on the minority. Because this is, you know, we've heard a lot of pros and cons. And as one person said, this is not new. No, and they took it back to the Roman Empire, but let me take it back just to ours. The struggle we had with British to gain our right to our religious freedom and right to vote without the right to have a vote and with taxation. We went through the Civil War, fighting for some very major issues that killed millions of us, but it kept our country together, and we were stronger for it. Our civil rights, I will remind you, the civil rights issue is about 50 years old. As a matter of fact, its birthday is this day, and the atrocities that were done against certain people in the South, Alabama, Birmingham, and different places, where they mutilated, lynched, burnt young girls. Remember the 4 girls? 3 of them were 14, 1 at 11. Blew them up in a church just because people thought they didn't have the right to fairness or the right to life. I'm also amazed at how easily people can use their God to condemn me to hell or eternity or whatever. I'm just sorry for that, but there is always going to be that kind of attitude when you have a group of people. I would trust each of you to vote your own consciousness, and regardless of the not so well hidden threats you've experienced here tonight, that the community is behind this. My neighbors are, my friends are, and by the way, just because you see someone wearing this shirt doesn't mean they're gay or lesbian or whatever, because my neighbors were wearing them. There was a question also about, well, why do people come forth if they have experienced prejudice in this community? I spoke privately to one of the people that's in this group because I've been working here for over 40 years. I've experienced it many times. I didn't speak about it because I would have to call names or organizations, and I want to be fair to everyone. I don't want anybody to treat them as they treated me. And so I appreciate being here, and I want to particularly thank all the young people here. I think, you know, our hope is in our youth. And when you poll them, they are not nearly as prejudiced as my generation. and we will get through this as a nation. We have struggled. We have overcome all kind of atrocities. We are still facing with it. As long as we live, there are going to be people who will challenge these freedoms. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. All right. So we'll go ahead and, doesn't seem to be anyone else, we'll go ahead and move back to the agenda. And the first item is ordinances 4.1. We have a second reading. Do you open the floor for any discussion or motions thereon?
Mayor, I wanted
Commissioner
to,
Bowers.
I brought my Roberts rules, but I kind of forget what we need to do first. I have a recommended amendment to this. So would I tell you that now?
Is the amendment going to substantially change or alter the
Yes.
ordinance? Then it would prevent having a second reading tonight.
Correct.
Well, Mayor, I do know that in my past years here on the City Commission, that we have actually had to have readings redone when there have been changes. So I think it's important that when this passes, as I think it's going to, that the ordinance is the best that it can be, and I think that it's not at this time. So I guess, are you telling me that we've never delayed a reading?
Oh, no. If you make an amendment tonight that is going to substantially alter the ordinance,
Okay.
it will prevent it from, it'll prevent it from being voted on tonight.
Okay. But we could have a first and second reading within this week that we're in right now, so it would not, maybe it would not be a long delay.
It would require another first reading, correct?
Correct.
It would-
Well, if you make the amendment tonight, and it's read with the amendment, that would be the first reading.
Mhm.
And then you have to wait 24 hours, and then you could do a second reading.
Well, let me tell you what I think I want let me tell you the amendment that I have to recommend. Shall we do that?
Yes. Sure may.
Okay, on page 2, this is the same recommendation I made before, and I'm going to give it one last shot because I think it's extremely important. Gender identity in this ordinance is not an accurate definition. The definition of gender identity, textbook definition, is a sense of self as male or female. The way this ordinance is drafted, it would only protect those individuals whose gender identity is discrepant from their biological gender or their sex. If we are going to have an ordinance, everyone needs to be protected on that concept of gender identity. So just let me say it one more time. Everyone in this room has one. This ordinance only protects people whose gender identity is discrepant from their biological gender or their biological sex, and that is wrong. Because what that does is say that it's okay to discriminate against people whose gender identity is consistent with their biology. So my recommendation is that we strike that definition and replace it with one sense of being male or female, or one psychological sense of being male or female. That way we're all protected. Now you may think that people whose gender identity is consistent with their biology will never be discriminated against. But I ask you to look down the road, and most certainly that group of people will be at some point in time. So we need to protect everyone with this ordinance. If we're going to talk about fairness, it must be fair. So my motion is that we strike that definition, which states the manifesting a gender identity not traditionally associated with one's biological or psychological maleness or femaleness. That is not the correct definition. The correct definition is one's psychological sense of being male or female. So I ask that we replace the definition that exists with one's psychological sense of being male or female. That's my motion for an amendment.
I'll second it. We'll compromise.
Motion by Commissioner Bauer, second by Commissioner Hedden. Okay, discussion.
If you want to discuss the legalities.
That's what I was going to
Yes,
ask you,
let's
Mr.
go.
Moore.
Now, when you look at the way the gender identity is drafted now, manifesting a gender identity not traditionally associated with one's biological or psychological maleness or femaleness. So if you are a male or a female, yet you manifest a gender identity, let's say you're a male and you manifest a gender identity as a female, then this gender identity covers you and you're protected. Similarly, if you psychologically feel like you are a male but you are a female, then it protects you as well. So it protects you both ways. Then also, when you look at the definition of sexual orientation, this ordinance protects you whether you're people cannot discriminate you, or discrimination on the basis of heterosexuality, homosexuality, or bisexuality is prohibited by this ordinance with respect to fair housing, with respect to employment as defined, and with respect to public accommodation. So, in my opinion, this ordinance protects individuals on the basis of not only their gender identity, whether they think they're male, whether they think they're female, in my opinion, an amendment does not need to be made. If you all want to amend it, that's up to you.
I think that one of the problems in this definition is the word traditionally is used. People are becoming more and more androgynous as time goes on. So this definition will, 20 years down the road, be completely meaningless. But right now, it does not protect people whose gender identity is consistent with their biology. It specifically states gender identity not traditionally associated with biological or psychological maleness or femaleness. So, and the definition is kind of like defining sex by saying sex is sex. Gender identity is one's psychological sense of maleness or femaleness. So we have a problem with the definition of the very concept that we've got. We have 15 pages in this draft, and two concepts are being addressed: gender identity and sexual orientation. So it is very important that this definition be correct and accurate. So I think we have a first and a second. I just wanted to say that. In my mind, this is not protecting everyone in the population. And I cannot be convinced otherwise because I have tried to see it from this definition. And I don't know how much time other commissioners and the mayor has spent on this issue, but those people that know me know that I've lived with this for about 4 months. I've looked at it every possible way I can look at it, because within my head there is conflict over this ordinance. I know it will pass, and when it passes, I want to make sure that it protects every one of us and that there's no question hanging out there that we're all protected by this ordinance.
Mr. Moore, I guess my question is, if we adopt Commissioner Bauer's language, do you foresee any problems?
If you'll give me the language again.
One's psychological sense of being male or female. That it is a distinct concept and different from one's biological maleness or femaleness. And most of the time, they coincide, but sometimes they don't. But those of us who have the consistency need to know that we're protected too. And what are the chances that we won't be? Well, it might be 20 years down the road before we see a case that will illustrate what I'm talking about, but we will see it at some point. And if we do the ordinance correctly at this point, we won't have to deal with that.
Of course, you would be protected under the definition of sexual orientation because they couldn't discriminate you on the basis of your heterosexuality, on the basis of your homosexuality, or on the basis of your bisexuality.
Well, therein lies another problem. My sexual orientation and my gender identity are two entirely different things. They are two different concepts. So we must protect everyone on both of those concepts, which leads me to another point. I don't see asexuality included in that definition, and I think it needs to be there. But that's another amendment that I will recommend.
Any other commissioners?
Would you put that under sexual orientation? I'm sorry.
Any other commissioners have a question? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah,
Head.
I'm sorry, let me speak up. There's more people in the room than just us board members. Commissioner Bowers, would you put that under definition of sexual orientation?
Asexuality?
Is that what you're talking about? That's where you would add asexuality under sexual orientation?
Yes, but I'll propose that separately from this first part.
Okay.
Commissioner Hayes.
Yes, Solicitor, the definition that we have, did that come from somewhere? Because it seems like I'm sure I've seen that in other places. Are we the only ones that...
That came from the city of Louisville's fairness ordinance.
And anyone else? I mean, it seems like a lot of people have this.
I would have to look at Lexington's. I can't recall. I think Lexington's and Louisville's are similar on that issue, though.
Commissioner Hayes, Commissioner Bowers.
We talked about when we were first presented with the idea for this ordinance that we needed to be a leader, and I'm not one to mimic Louisville or Lexington or Rico or anywhere else. If we're going to be a leader, we need to be in charge of what we do and set the example, and no matter who has that definition, it is just wrong. I teach this topic. I know I went to several textbooks to make sure I wasn't confused. I'm not confused. Louisville may be confused. Other places may be confused. But indeed, if we're going to lead, then we need to lead, and we don't need to follow.
Any other?
I guess I've still got the same question, Mr. Moore, and I guess I'm a little lost, so I'll just say that on the front end. But I just want to know, it's no secret I'm opposed to the ordinance, but I'm also wanting, if it passes, to have the least amount of cost for the city, because I see this being a lawsuits waiting to happen. So I'm hoping we have little to none. So will this language change that Commissioner Bowers, and you may not be able to answer that, will this language change advocated by Commissioner Bowers lead to more legal problems or not?
Well, let me put it this way, and that is the way the gender identity definition is provided now is that if someone acts or feels differently than their biological makeup, then they are protected by this ordinance under the gender identity definition. On the other hand, if they if you're not a male acting as a female, or vice versa, then you are protected under the sexual orientation provision of the ordinance. One's psychological sense of being male or female, it's untested. If you all want to put it in there, you can do it. I don't know if it'll cause more or less litigation. Only the future will tell. I think the Louisville and the Lexington ordinances have been on the books for several years. They have not been challenged on that basis to the best of my knowledge, so that is more proven.
Thank you.
Let me give you a clear example. Let's pretend, just for a moment, we'll pretend that I am a gay man trapped inside a woman's body. Okay, just pretend that, and I'll have you think about that for a minute so you see the difference in the two concepts. Okay? That makes me, by this ordinance, a heterosexual. Okay? Gender identity is different than sexual orientation. They are two separate concepts, and they are two different proposed protected classes. So if we're gonna do this, we can't mix them and intertwine them. They stand alone, each separately, just as race and sex and age stand alone separately. They have to be treated as two concepts because that's the way they're presented in this ordinance. But anyway, Mayor, I'll just call for the question.
Okay, if there's no other questions, clerk, please call roll.
Commissioner Roach?
No.
Commissioner Haynes?
No.
Commissioner Bowers?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
A great compromise, yes.
Thank you.
Mayor May?
No. Okay, next item. Do you have another, Commissioner Bowers?
Oh, yes, under sexual orientation. It's got homosexuality, heterosexuality, bisexuality. It needs to have asexuality. And by the way, just to make another point of clarification, gender identity in its definition does not parallel the definition of sexual orientation. And within this ordinance, we need to look at some parallelity because on the sexual orientation, we are protecting heterosexual orientation. We're protecting what we perceive the majority to be. We need to do that on gender identity as well. So with sexual orientation, we are protecting in this ordinance heterosexuals, homosexuals, bisexuals. I'm proposing asexuals as well. But with gender identity, we're not protecting people whose gender identity is consistent with their biology. So I would propose that we add the word asexual. We might even want to add other, but you know, I'd be afraid somebody wouldn't want to put. By the way, pedophilia has nothing to do with being gay or lesbian any more than it has to do with someone who's a heterosexual being a pedophile. And I think in talking to people, there's just so much confusion about that. People really need to try to understand what these concepts are because pedophilia can be found with heterosexuals or homosexuals or bisexuals, but not asexuals. So I think we need to, I propose that we add asexuals to the definition of sexual orientation.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Moved by Commissioner Bowers.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Hayden. I have a question. I don't think that's going to be a substantial enough.
I think it would be a substantial change.
You do think it would be?
Yes, I do. It's a close call, but someone could challenge it, and
okay,
out of an abundance of caution, I would think you would treat it as a substantial change, and you'd have to do another second reading if you have a first reading tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask on what basis it would be challenged?
On the basis it would be challenged is that an ordinance has to be read 2 times in order for it to take effect.
The reading, okay.
2 times.
Okay.
I've got my usual question. Mr. Moore, does that in any way lead us toward more legal trouble or not?
I think there's been a lot of discussion about whether or not Frankfort needs a fairness ordinance because of some concern about whether or not there has been actual discrimination against the LGBT population. I think that question is probably even a fairer question when you talk about whether or not there's been discrimination against people that are asexual. I don't know whether that's I have not heard anyone complain that they've been discriminated against because they're asexual. So is that a problem that needs to be, is that an issue that needs to be solved? I don't know.
Mayor, could I just point out that, again, when we were approached with this idea for doing this ordinance, we were told that we might have, I think we were told 1 case in a year to be adjudicated, is that right? 1 in 10 years where we might find that someone actually was at fault. And the bottom line is we were told that we really don't have a problem. If 1 person a year has a case, 1 person a year that is black, white, female, over 40 has a case too. So basically what I got from that is the problem with discrimination with this group of people is no more than it is with any other group of people. So I would say that we should not let that argument interfere with doing the right thing in this ordinance either.
Any further questions from commissioners, comments before we vote?
On this amendment?
On this amendment?
Yes. Okay.
Did you have one, Commissioner? Good.
Oh, not at this, I have another,
Oh,
just
okay.
a clarification after this.
Oh, okay. So, clerk, please call the roll on this amendment.
Commissioner Roach,
I'll abstain.
Commissioner Haynes,
No.
Commissioner Bowers,
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden,
Yes?
Mayor May.
No, motion fails. All right, Commissioner Hidden.
I would just like some clarification, please, that under the definition of family, per our notes on the July 22nd meeting, page 4, it states that the definition of family is to includes a single individual, spouse, and children, whether related by blood, adoption, legal custody, and/or care, or marriage. However, that motion it did fail. All I'm asking for under this is that, under the definition of family, somehow legal guardianship, I think, needs to be in there. It's not everybody's ever adopted, and we're not always all related by blood, and we're not always all in it by marriage. Sometimes, legally, families become a union
I second that.
with their children, whether that's through foster care.
We talked about that, right? Is that a motion?
Is that a motion?
Yes, I'm making a motion to add legal guardianship under the definition of family.
And I second it.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Hidden, second by Commissioner Bowers. Do you think that's substantial?
Yes.
Any other discussion?
I've got a
Commissioner Roach, go ahead.
similar question, Mr. Moore. And I'm a little fuzzy on state law, so I'm hoping you can help me. On adoption and legal guardianship, does the state have the ability to discriminate against gays, lesbians, transgenders, and bisexuals? They used to. I don't know what the current law is. That's why I'm asking.
The standards for adoption versus guardianship are completely different. And
I was hoping you'd help.
I believe that you can have adoption by people of the same sex, because I know there have been domestic relations cases over who gets the child when they split up, just like every other marital situation. With respect to guardianship, guardianship usually is where a child's parent and/or parents are unable to take care of a child, maybe they've been killed in an accident, and the court appoints an individual, usually a relative, to then take care of that child until they reach the age of majority. So
You don't
It
think
would
this
be
causes
a-
any trouble, is what you're saying?
No, I don't think it would cause trouble. And usually in a guardianship situation, you don't have a couple that would be appointed as a guardian. You would have a single person be appointed as, one person be appointed as a guardian.
Right.
Commissioner Haynes.
Well, I actually think that's an excellent idea, because just coming from a courtroom on another case, it's a lot of legal, people that are getting the legal guardianship, rather, regardless of what happens to them, whether they went to jail or whether, even they just, they died. I'm surprised we didn't pick that up earlier, because I really think that is a.
The motion failed. It was brought up. It was
We did
failed.
talk about it.
Okay.
I think we use the word care or under someone's care.
So you would add legal guardianship?
Yes, sir.
Where is that amendment? What line?
It should be under the definition of family on page 2. Includes a single individual, spouse, and children, whether related by blood, adoption, adding legal guardianship or marriage.
And Solicitor, you think that would
Yes.
be a substantial change?
And then we axed this thing to pieces, and it was still able to count as a first reading.
Right, this could be a first reading tonight.
With that definition,
Yes.
this is a song that never ends. I make a motion to add that definition.
You already did.
Already seconded it.
We did, we were just discussing.
So call for the question.
Okay, if nobody else, anybody else have any questions? If not, clerk, please call roll.
Commissioner Roach,
Abstain.
Commissioner Haynes,
Yes.
Commissioner Bowers,
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden,
Yes.
Mayor May.
Well, based on the fact that it's going to pass, I'll go ahead and vote yes then, and that will clear up any, because it's going to pass. So that means that tonight, that amendment is adopted. So we will,
So that's the only change so far, correct?
So far.
that's a substantial change. The solicitor said this will delay the vote for tonight, and that will mean we'll have to come back for a special meeting to keep this on track.
Mayor, do you still want me to read it by title and summary?
After that.
Mayor, I had another question.
Commissioner Roach, go ahead, and then Commissioner Bowers.
I know we're all wanting to get through this as quick as we can, so I'll be very fast. The schools, I initially asked for them to be exempt. Then I learned that perhaps they were exempt, and then I've learned tonight that perhaps they're not exempt. But I guess my question is, under executive order in 2008, state executive order, I guess my question is whether or not that state executive order applies to the public schools, or does this ordinance apply to the public schools, or do neither apply?
The case law indicates that public schools are state agencies. Okay. And as a state agency, then they would not fit within the definition of an employer under the meaning of this act. Okay. Also, since they are a state employee, I don't think we can tell the state whether or not they're a place of public accommodation. So if, as the case law indicates, a public school is a state agency, then the ordinance would not apply to it. And I believe, but I have not read the executive order, that the executive order may apply to it, but I'd have to look at the specific language.
Yeah, like a lot of this, I'm not sure either, looking at it, I've got it here in front of me.
If you have a private school that's not a religious school, the private school is going to be subject to the ordinance.
Okay, I appreciate that, Mr. Moore. I think one of the smartest things I've heard on this ordinance was about, it's hard to remember, it's been so long. It was about 3 months ago when Commissioner Hedden suggested that we have a resolution. I know we're not going to go to that. I'm just telling you that I believe that this ordinance is a train wreck, regardless of whether you're for it or against it. I think most sides have not read the ordinance. I could be wrong, won't be the first time. But I think if you read it, it looks to me like it's a problem waiting to happen. We've been uncertain about the schools. We've been uncertain about how the state legislature's law giving sincere religious belief would apply. We have a variety of things. I think it's just not a good ordinance, period. I think our city solicitor did a really good job in a bad situation, but I do not think the law is the ordinance is proper. I don't believe it's enforceable. And I think when you finally get down to it, you will be astonished at how few places it actually applies in the city of Frankfort. Once you get past the exemptions and you get past the sincere religious belief, I think you'll be astonished at how little it in fact applies. And I think that it's not worth dealing with, and I wish we never had dealt with it, but I also wish it would get over quickly so that we could go on about all the other things the city has to do. I really respect my colleagues up here. They're my friends, and we work together well. This is an exception to what's been the general rule. And after this is over, we're going to be working well together again for the city of Frankfort. But we have spent too much time on this issue, and it looks like we're going to spend more time on it again. And believe it or not, I'm done.
Commissioner Haynes.
Well, I tell you, first of all, I'd like to just thank the citizens for your concerns and also your participation. That meant more to me than which side you stand on. And I hope that after this is actually completed, that when we have other issues, we'll have the same kind of support. Because the only way we're going to move forward, we have to move forward in a unified manner. And I just thank you all for showing up tonight and those other days. Thanks also for the phone calls, for the emails, for the text, for meeting in purpose and in person. We didn't have to have an open door policy. You opened it up for us, and I thank you for that.
In light of that, let me ask the commission, could everybody get together at noon on Wednesday, August 28th for a special meeting for a second reading?
I get at 12:15.
12:15. Anybody else?
I can do 12:15.
This Wednesday?
August 28th.
I'm good.
Oh, no?
No, I have an employee meeting
Okay,
Wednesday
Okay.
afternoon at
well,
lunch.
we can do it another time then. I just was trying to do it lunch times for folks.
Do 8 a.m.
Want to do 8 a.m. on Wednesday, the 28th?
Thursday.
Thursday?
Thursday, otherwise the city clerk's going to have to get everything done before she leaves this evening.
I said Thursday.
Did you say that?
I can do 8 a.m. on Thursday.
Everybody can do 8 a.m. on Thursday?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thursday, okay, we'll just call a special meeting for Thursday, August 29th at 8 a.m. and we will meet in this room for a second reading. Unless anyone wants to change under the definition of family, and we can move forward and then we can make that amendment in the future, so we could go ahead, and that's why I voted on the prevailing side, just so you all know. So I could call for reconsideration. If anybody's willing to do that, we could go on and give it a second reading tonight, and then come back and make an amendment to the definition of family at a future meeting, if you want to do it. We just have to make a motion to reconsider the vote by which that amendment was adopted, and then it would allow us to move forward. Nobody wants to?
Well, I personally don't think that guardianship is going to change a lot of situations out there between now and whenever it would get us, between now and whenever you would amend it. I can't see that it's going to affect anyone in the next week. But either way is okay with me.
Well, it would take three of us to do it, so. To reconsider and then move forward to undo the ordinance amendment that dealt with the definition of family.
Just change it and press on Thursday.
You want to just leave it and just do it on Thursday?
Make it quicker. Yeah, I think I'm open for what you just suggested, but I'm just trying to make sure I know what we're doing Wednesday.
Okay. If we make the change,
Thursday, I'm sorry.
Yes. If we make a motion to reconsider the vote by which the amendment was adopted that changed the definition of family on page 2, then that would put us back to the original ordinance proposal under 4.1. That would allow us to make our second reading and vote tonight. and that would pass the issue, and then we can come back at any time you want to make an amendment to the definition of family on page 2. But we'd have to do it, we'd have to make a motion to reconsider.
Could I ask,
Sure.
excuse me, Mayor?
Please do.
Mr. Moore, is that right? That seems a little weird.
I don't have my Robert's Rules of Order, but I think that someone could make a motion for reconsideration, but you're going to have to vote on it. Either way you do it, you're going to have to vote again on it in the future.
That's what I thought.
Whether it's to have the second reading on Thursday morning at 8 a.m. or whether or not it's to open it up to address the guardianship issue at a later time.
Well, I think one thing to consider is, do you think there would be people that would want to come and speak on that part of the ordinance? Because if not, well, I just think it might be something to consider.
Or either way. I'll vote on the prevailing side, so.
Because Thursday morning I will not be able to stay and listen to citizen comment for more than 1 hour. So that's just, if we're going to meet Thursday, and if we have people that are that interested in whether guardianship becomes part of the definition or not, I won't be able to hear from those people Thursday morning at 8 o'clock. So if we think that the room will be filled like this, I do like to hear from citizens, and so, although I'm in favor of it, the guardianship edition.
Just so I can explain, procedurally, if we make a motion to reconsider, it has to be people who vote, someone has to make that motion who voted on the prevailing side. So there were 4 members who voted in the affirmative, 1 abstention. So any 4 commissioners who voted yes on the amendment could make a motion to reconsider the vote by which the amendment was adopted, which would put it would undo the amendment after we voted on the procedural issue, and then we'd take the amendment off and then go back to the original ordinance proposal 4.1 to allow us to give a second reading and a vote tonight, and then at some point in the future, if the commission wants to make an amendment, which would be on any ordinance, that we do that all the time, it would just be to amend that section if you feel like it's that important.
Yeah, I move that we reconsider the vote so that we can move on with the process.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Haynes to reconsider the vote by which the amendment was adopted. I will second that. Okay, is there any discussion? Does everybody understand? This is just a procedural vote to put the issue back in front of us without the amendment. Any discussion? So a yes vote means that we reconsider the vote by which the amendment passed. Then we have to vote on that again.
Correct.
So if you're not sure, we'll slow down and answer any questions. I don't mean to do these procedural things, but this will go ahead and allow us to get it adopted. So a yes vote means that we put the amendment back in front of us.
You mean considered instead of adopted? You don't want to go ahead and say what we're going to...
I know, I'm jumping, sorry. If it were to pass.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good one. Okay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Roach?
No.
Commissioner Haynes?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowers?
No.
Commissioner Hadden?
No.
Mayor May?
Yes, good one, y'all. Southern speak. Okay. All right, then we will meet on Thursday, August 29th at 8 a.m.
Right here?
Right here.
Mayor, may I go ahead and read by title?
Now, if there's no objection, read the ordinance by title and summary only as amended.
Title and ordinance amending Chapter 96 Fair Housing, Sections 96.012, 96.02, 96.03, 96.04, 96.05, 96.06, 96.07, 96.08, 96.09, 96.10, 96.11, 96.12, 96.13, 96.14, 96.15, 96.16, 96.17, 96.18, 96.19, and 96.99 of the City of Frankfort Code of Ordinances. By summary, This ordinance amends Chapter 96 of the City of Frankfort Code of Ordinances. The Fair Housing Ordinance was amended to prohibit discrimination against individuals on the basis of gender identity and sexual orientation, to prohibit discrimination in employment and public accommodation, to exempt religious institutions from the provisions of the ordinance regarding gender identity and sexual orientation. Section 96.11 contains the reference to KRS 446.350, protecting a person's exercise of his or her religious rights. The mayor or fairness officer may resolve statements found alleging discriminatory treatment under this chapter. Formal complaints alleging discrimination on the basis of other than gender identity or sexual orientation may be filed with the State Human Rights Commission for enforcement. Formal complaints alleging discrimination on the basis of gender identity or sexual orientation, which include additional allegations of discrimination, may be filed with the local Human Rights Commission for enforcement. A 7-member City of Frankfort Human Rights Commission is created with the power to determine violations of the Fairness Ordinance. A hearing officer would conduct any formal hearings and issue findings of fact, conclusions of law, and a recommended order. The Human Rights Commission would then accept the recommended order or revise it as deemed necessary. There is no automatic right of appeal from the decision of the Human Rights Commission. Individuals that are the subject of legal discrimination may file a complaint directly with the Franklin Circuit or District Court, and the penalty section is set forth in Section 96.99.
Okay, 4.1 as amended has its first reading, second reading for 4.2. Any discussion by members of the commission on item 4.2? If not, we'll entertain a motion,
I move.
and then we'll read it by title and summary only.
Oh, do you want to read it first or move adoption?
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Bowers, second by Commissioner Roach. Clerk or solicitor, read it by title and summary only, please.
Title: An ordinance to amend the City of Frankfort Code of Ordinances, Chapter 150.05 by amending the City of Frankfort's Property Maintenance Code, Section 302, Exterior Property Areas, subsections 302.9, Storage of Trailers. Summary: This ordinance amends the city's Property Maintenance Code by amending subsection 302.9, Storage of Trailers, to allow trailers parked on the grass within side and rear yards on residential property and in the front yard setback areas if on a paved surface.
Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Roach?
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowers?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes.
Mayor May?
Yes, item 4.2 was adopted. Next item is 4.3, public hearing and first reading on an ordinance fixing the tax rate for the year of 2013 on all tangible properties subject to tax, trust, and insurance companies, public service companies, and levy set tax for all city purposes. I will open the public hearing. Correct? Okay, well, I'm gonna take a, we'll just let attendees while you let them exit.
May we move for a recess, 5 minutes?
Oh, okay. Moved by Commissioner Hadden, second by Commissioner Bowers. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
We just don't have a second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. This is a 5-minute recess by
Who moved and who seconded?
Commissioner Bowers and Commissioner Hadden.
I think Commissioner Hadden made the motion, Commissioner Bowers seconded it.
Thank you.
And I'm thinking about going to,
All right, I have to remember, all right, we'll reconvene, and we were in the process of doing a public hearing and first reading on item 4.3, so I will call the meeting back to order and call the public hearing back to order. Public hearing is a separate meeting inside the City Commission meeting, and this would be for anyone who wants to speak on, for, or against the tax rate, the proposed tax rate for 2013 ad valorem taxes, which keeps the same rate as 2012 and sets the rate for 2013 applicable to taxable capital of insurance companies. The background on this would be for general fund purposes. The ad valorem tax rate would be 20.9 cents. Insurance premiums, which is insurance taxable capital, at 15 cents. Each of these rates are levied for each $100 valuation. There is no change in property tax rate from 2012 to 2013. The financial analysis would see a net decrease of $5,606 from 2012 due to the reduction in assessment. Included in the decrease is a minus $23,985 derived from the net reduction in property. Does anyone here wish to speak for or against either of these proposed rates? If not, I will declare the public hearing closed. And now, item 4.3, I will, if there's no objections, read it by title and summary only. Sorry. This is for 4.3. It's summarized as follows. That the 2013 City of Frankfort ad valorem tax rate is 20 9/10 cents on each $100 valuation of all real and personal property, 20 9/10 cents on each $100 valuation on public utilities and public service companies, taxable on a franchise basis, 15 0.10 cents on each $100 valuation on taxable capital of insurance companies. This ordinance has had its first reading and will receive its second reading. Pardon me?
You need to read it by title.
I'm sorry, I didn't read it by title. Thank you. And this is, again, 4.3. An ordinance fixing the rate of taxation for the year of 2013 on all tangible property subject to tax, trust and insurance companies, public service companies, and levying said tax for all city purposes. So it's had its second reading, I'm sorry, its first reading by title summary only. I'm trying to fill in for the solicitor who had to leave for a second. And my mouth is extremely dry right now, so.
There's some water. I'll get you some.
I'm having a little allergy issue here with some medicine. So, next item is 4.4. And this would be for an ordinance fixing the rate of taxation for the year 2014 on all motor vehicles and levying a tax for all city purposes. The background on this is the tax rate has to be set by October 1st, as required by Kentucky Department of Revenue, and the tax rate proposed, thank you, Commissioner Brown, for 2014 is the same rate as approved for 2013. So if there's...
Read it by summary. Read it by summary as well, on the ordinance.
the attachments.
Oh, yeah, you mean the 4.3, I need to do that one again?
You
'Cause I
need to
read
do
it
the,
by-
and the summary as well as stated in the ordinance itself.
I did the summary a second ago. Do I need to do it again?
I thought you did the title.
Do I need to do it again?
4.4.
Okay, get ready for 4.4. Okay. An ordinance fixing the rate of taxation for the year 2014 on all motor vehicles and levying said tax for all city purposes, summarized as follows. This ordinance fixes the rate of taxation for the year 2014 at the sum of 22 7/10 cents on each $100 valuation on all motor vehicles subject to taxation in the city. So it has its first reading. Next item is 4.5. And this would be also a first reading on an ordinance amending section 3904 and 3912 of the City of Frankfort Code of Ordinances to amend the city's ethics codes. I believe we have some folks here that may or may not want to speak. We have our chairman of the Ethics Commission, if there's any questions that commissioners may have for Ms. Lemaster, she's available. She's sat patiently through the long duration of the heat.
And
So
it is hot in here now.
It is very hot. So does anyone have any questions for our Ethics Commission Chair? And if not, then we'll give this a first reading by title and summary only. This is 4.5, an ordinance amending section 39.04 and section 3912 of the City of Frankfort Code of Ordinances to amend the city's ethics code. Bear with me while I turn to the summary page. Summarized as follows. This ordinance amends section 39.04 and section 39.12 of the City of Frankfort's Code of Ethics so that individuals appointed to city agencies that are not paid are not required to file statements of financial interest. However, these individuals will still be required to comply with the Code of Ethics. So it's had its first reading. Next item, we'll move to orders. The first one is 5.1, and it's an order relating to the City of Frankfort personnel policies and procedures. Section 3.15, use of city-owned vehicles and equipment. We have our HR director here with us if there's any questions. If not,
Yes, Mayor, I have a few
Commissioner Bowers.
questions. And y'all may have done this in the work session that I missed, but on the, well, I went back to look at the ordinance itself, but on page 4 of this agenda, the second bullet down, to clarify that permissible use of a city vehicle for personal errands not exceed beyond 1 mile. And so my question was, I did go back to look at the order itself to see if I could answer that question, but is that 1 mile in grand total of the amount of space covered on one trip from home to work or work to home? Or is that 1 mile one-way trip? Or is that 1 mile round trip one time? My question is, and my recommendation would be that on any given day, there not be more than 1/2 mile grand total of space cover to and from. Because this could add up to a big number of miles, equals a big number of money. If a person 5 days a week is making 2 or 3 trips that are 1 mile each one way, that could add up. So did you all address that in the work session?
No, this would be a deviation of 1 mile from the normal path.
Understand, so it would be a deviation one way. So let's
Up to 1 mile, yes.
let's pretend we're leaving work and we're going home. How many 1 mile one-way deviations can be had in a given day?
So to and from?
Like, if it's 1 mile one-way trip from your course home, I can see where if this is not clarified, this could become quite an expense, depending on how you look at expense, but I think we need to cut costs every way we can. And my recommendation, Frankfort is a small town, and my recommendation would be that it be 1 mile round trip, one time for one trip. Otherwise, you could end up with somebody making a round trip is 2 miles. So somebody on their way home from work could make 5 or 6 of these 2 mile trips. So my point is this could add up to dollars.
Let me let the city manager address that.
Thank you, Mayor. We would have looked at it as to work and from work, not during work hours.
I understand that, but you're leaving work and you're going home, and en route home,
Correct.
you decide to make a 1 mile trip to this point. Now it's a mile back to route.
That's correct.
And then 2 more miles down the road, you make another 1 mile deviation. And my point is, there should be a cap on the total number of miles covered that are off the route home, because if there's not, we're not a really big city. Somebody could do all of their errands in the city vehicle and run up quite a few miles over the course of not 365 days, there's 5 work days, but that could be quite a number of miles racked up for personal business. And I'm just thinking that if you are going home from your place of employment, a 1/2 mile round trip, 1 deviation is what I would recommend, because that's really on your way home. And a 1/2 mile from where your trip home is some people might think is too much. But this mile one way equals to 2 miles total, which could happen more than once on the way home. So it could end up being 10 or 12 miles or even more. I don't know why it would happen, but I'm just saying if we're going to do, I don't think that it would, I can't say I don't think that it would, or I wouldn't be making this recommendation, but my point is, it's not really clear to me when I read this. Okay, this could end up being 20 miles total mileage.
Commissioner Bowers, why don't we see if I follow you on this, and it could be abused, so why don't we see if the city manager has a suggestion on language that I think there may be an easy word or two we could add and we'd have it.
You could just add 1 personal errand per trip to and from work, not to exceed 1 mile beyond.
And again, if it's off, I hate to be like just try to be difficult, but I try to think about every aspect of what could happen. You know, maybe you want have somebody that might need to make 3 trips. They're off the clock. They're taking the vehicle home. Maybe they have 3 trips that they want to make all within the space of 1/2 a mile. I think it should be capped in the number of miles, not the number of trips. I think the number of miles should be capped per day. And I think it should be lowered to a 1/2 mile round trip. Or 1/2 mile total, grand total for the day. Or maybe if you want to say 1 mile grand total for the day. Somebody could theoretically spend an hour doing personal business on the way home and rack up 20 miles on the car
Would you just like to add, excuse me, may I?
Commissioner Gray.
Just at the end of that sentence, would you just like to add per day
Not to extend beyond 1 mile.
from the regular
Per day.
commute route per day?
I think that would, I would like that better.
Which section are you talking about?
Second bullet,
Second bullet,
page 4.
Well,
It's in the.
I'm talking about on 5.1. We looked. We're at
The
in
second bullet. And
Second bullet.
Commissioner Hedden just said something that I would
Okay,
agree
you're all.
with.
I think you're all looking at the agenda. I'm talking about.
I'm looking at the agenda.
On
That's
5.1,
right.
the actual order. Could you?
I looked at the order to see if
Would
I
you
could
reference-
clarify that.
That's what I wanted. I just need to know
Okay.
which.
So on 5.1.
For example, under 3.15, under subsection A or B, and just give me the
Here
number.
we go. Okay, it is 5 subsection D. Incidental stops or errands of a personal nature, only if such stops are along the regular commute route and do not cause a deviation of more than, I would rather say 1/2 mile per day, but if people like the mile, of more than 1 mile per day from the regular commute route. So let me make a motion that we substitute that language. So, section 5, subsection D, incidental stops or errands of a personal nature, only if such stops are along the regular commute route and do not cause a deviation of more than 1 mile per day from the regular commute route.
So we would insert the words per day after the closed parentheses, after of more than 1 mile, and insert
Yes.
per day, close brace.
per day. And whether we need to put a comma in there or not, we'll leave that up to our legal staff to whether or not that needs to be, that would be a technical correction. So anyway, the Commissioner, you put that in form of a motion.
Yes.
Anyone wish to second that motion?
Second.
I'm singing that the song. Second that motion. Motion moved and seconded. Any more discussion?
Mr. City Manager, you have any thoughts on it?
I don't object.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or discussion on this amendment? Okay. And clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Roach?
Yes.
Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Hedden?
And this is just for that amendment part,
Yes.
correct? Yes.
Mayor May?
Yes. Okay, now 5.1.
I have
Go
another.
ahead, Commissioner Bowers.
I'm wondering why, okay. Again, I'm looking at the agenda, but let me pull out the ordinance here. On 5.1, page 2. It is the section, now I can't find it, but it's the section where we talk about the limit is 13.25 miles. Is the furthest out that we can go to the line, is that right? So
It's
why?
15.
Well, no, it's 15.
It's number 9.
And you're on, that would be under,
It's number 9. Okay, here it is.
under section 9.
Commissioner Hedden just pointed it out to me.
Subsection.
No vehicle will be assigned for take-home or commuting purpose if the employee's normal residence is more than 15 air miles from City Hall.
Radius.
What did I say?
13.5.
Air miles radius from City Hall. The 15-mile limit does not apply to temporary. Now, somewhere in here, there is, in the agenda,
The review team.
the review team determined that the farthest point from City Hall that was within the county was 13. Therefore, the 15-mile radius extends far, why are we not just saying 13.5 miles or 13.25 miles? Why are we saying 15? Is there some reason for that?
It was just felt.
It's a
if I
round
may-
number.
Yes, it was a round number we erred on the side of being conservative.
Okay.
May I add something to that, Commissioner and Mayor?
Commissioner Bowers, you through?
Oh, sure.
Go ahead, Commissioner Hadden.
That I personally would just like for it to stay within Franklin County and not within a radius.
I would agree with that. Are you putting that in the motion, Tom?
If there's agreement.
Well, I thought it did say Franklin County. Maybe I misread it. 10 miles from City Hall in Franklin County.
That's the way that's the way I thought. That's what I
Will
thought.
be
That's
signed
on
for
the
take-home
agenda.
or commuting if the employee's normal residence is more than 15 air miles radius from City Hall. The 15-mile limit does not apply to temporary assignments due to training as detailed in number 10 below.
The-
Doesn't say Franklin County.
I was looking at the agenda.
I think we can for sure change it if we wish, but I think the point was, when we had the work session and we went over this, the point was, is let's say, for example, somebody lives, I don't know, 8 miles away and they're in another county, and yet somebody that might live 13 miles away lives in the county, what's the difference? And I assume then we make a judgment call as to whether or not the fairness based on just mileage is outweighed by the fact that, we'd all be pleased as punch if everybody in this, that worked for the city lived in the city of Frankfort, because then that would be more economic growth in Frankfort. So I guess that's kind of where you guys are coming from.
I was just wondering why we picked 15, but they're just rounding it.
Yes.
I figured you were rounding it, but why are we rounding it up? But if people are comfortable with that, it's just, I thought that maybe you were foreseeing that we might annex something or.
Oh, no. It's just easier than instead of having to go out and try to measure 13.25 miles versus 15.
So you're making accommodations for like an error in measurement.
Yes.
Otherwise you would round it to 14 or 13.5.
We thought 15 because it was divisible by 3 and 5. It was easier.
All right. Just questions
Just
about that.
Sorry.
Those are the only questions I have about that one.
Don't we have a motion?
We have a question about the fact, I guess that was the answer.
They kind of answered. Yeah, they did.
Okay. Any other questions?
So I guess with that, it means that it isn't per what this summary says. It's not only Franklin County, but a 15-mile radius from City Hall,
Correct.
where this says to change the distance from a Franklin County boundary to a 15-mile radius.
Correct.
Correct?
Yes, correct.
Mhm. I would make a motion to remove that part of the order and to keep it only within Franklin County.
So you want to remove this bullet?
Mhm.
So is your motion to
Remove that bullet?
number 9, section?
Take-home vehicles only stay within Franklin County.
So
B9.
you want do you want to delete section or subsection 9 in its entirety? Which would in effect have the effect of making it within Franklin County. It would say that they can't take their vehicles outside of Franklin County.
That the vehicles would only stay, take-home vehicles are only allowed within Franklin County.
If I may, do you want it to say that no vehicle will be assigned for take-home or commuting purposes if the employee's normal residence is outside Franklin County?
I guess that fits it, yes?
So that's the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Hadden,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bowers. Okay, does anybody have any questions or discussion? If not, I do. Okay. Because the reason the policy is in place is to try to accommodate and then also have a quicker response time for any of our folks who live with or live outside of Franklin County or without having to drive in and get their vehicle if it's bad weather or snow, or they need to respond. It could theoretically be someone could live 15 miles, well, say they live in Scott County, and could be within that 15-mile radius. I don't even know if that's true, but could be within that 15-mile radius, and end up having to pass by an incident, come back down to get their vehicle from whether it be at public safety building or a fire station or sewer garage, public works garage, they would end up passing where they needed to go and have to go and double back.
Okay, I'll
And-
withdraw my second.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
That was easy, thank you. Okay, any other questions?
Let's do a second.
All right. Did you say, did we have a motion in a second for passage of 5.1?
No,
Because I
not
don't
yet.
think we did. Okay.
Not yet.
All right. Then I will entertain Commissioner Roach.
Make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Roach, second by Commissioner Haynes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call roll.
Mr. Roach?
Yes.
Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
Mr. Bowers?
Approved as amended, correct?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
No.
Mayor May?
Yes, 5.1 is adopted. Next item. I think that was all the orders. Pardon me, that's resolutions.
Just a consent.
No, we have resolutions.
Got one more, my fault, buddy.
All right, next item is 6.1, a resolution that would go, this is a resolution of the City of Frankfort authorizing an assistance agreement between the City of Frankfort and Kentucky Infrastructure Authority to provide $8 million of loan funds for wastewater system improvements. We discussed it at the work session, but if anyone has further questions, if not, I entertain a motion for approval.
I make a motion we approve.
Moved by Commissioner Roach,
Second.
second by Commissioner Haynes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call roll.
Commissioner Roach?
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowers?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes.
Mayor May?
Yes, 6.1 is adopted. Next item is Resolution 6.2. This is a resolution of the City of Frankfort, Kentucky relating to loan assistance from the federally assisted wastewater revolving loan fund. This is in the amount of, it's estimated that the total project cost is $4.2 million, with estimates for the second, or for the two phases as yet undetermined. Is there any discussion on this one? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Haynes,
Second.
second by Commissioner Hadden. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call roll.
Commissioner Roach?
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes?
Yes.
Mr. Bowers?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes.
Mayor May?
Yes, 6.2 is adopted.
It's under consent.
Okay, thanks. All right. Next item, we'll do consent calendar items. All, go ahead, Commissioner Roach.
I'm sorry. Could I ask to have 7.2 and 7.17 removed and discussed?
I'll approve it. I'll second it.
7.27.
17.
1-7?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you say 1-7?
Let me double check, but 7.2 and 7.17.
If there's no objections, we'll have those as discussion items, and we will take those up under, I guess,
New business?
new business or old business, does it matter?
Whatever y'all say.
We'll just put under, I'll make it 9.2. 7.1 will be 9.2 under old business, 7.17, 9.3 under old business. No objection. Okay, consent calendar, all those who signify their presence tonight will be considered to vote in the affirmative on the consent calendar items unless they file vote modification forms with the city clerk. Any vote modification forms filed?
No.
If not, then we will move forward at the conclusion of the consent calendar. Someone will make a motion to approve, then we will make a motion in a second, those will be approved. Turn over to the city manager for reading of consent calendar items.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 7.1 is authorize a one-year agreement with Essential Safety LLC to provide safety training for sewer department staff at a cost of not to exceed $12,000. Item 7.3 is the purchase of one four-wheel drive replacement vehicle. It's a Chevy Crew Cab utility truck for the sewer department, amount $32,178. This is through the state bid. Item 7.4 is a change order number 2, providing a $26,689.37 additional funding for Kenny Construction for 12,460 additional feet of gravity and force main. It also includes an 800 gallon per minute pump station. The revised contract amount is $1,515,519.87. Item 7.5 is a letter of understanding with Siemens Industry to study potential operational saving at the sewer treatment plant. There is no cost to the city. Should the savings be found at a later date, there will be an agreement brought before the commission, which would include providing changes to our department in exchange for cost savings returned to the contractor. Item 7.6 is authorizing a sewer extension agreement with Yount Developers to extend a sanitary sewer with a proposed new development on Cloverleaf Drive. There is no cost to the city sewer department. The sewer extensions would occur from an existing main that already runs through that subdivision, proposed subdivision. Item 7.7 is to authorize a $44,500 purchase order with Source Technologies for 5 months sanitary sewer odor control at the Jim Beam Pump Station. Item 7.8 is authorizing change order number 3 for $207.90 for the Myrtle Avenue sewer rehabilitation project that includes sewer encasement and realignment to avoid a retaining wall. The revised contract amount is $901,368.90. Item 7.9 is a decrease change order in the amount of $88,700 that reduces the East Frankfort Interceptor project by reducing parts of the contract that will be placed in Phase 2. The revised contract amount is $446,375.46. Item 7.10 is a $70,000 engineering agreement with Strand Associates for flood wall design to repair 2 sewer mains that pass through the flood wall. These repairs were mandated by the Corps of Engineers. Item 7.11 is to retire and surplus, sounds like a strange word, Chief, to surplus our police canine, Johnny, who served since 2007 and has had some health issues. Item 7.12 is purchase of a 2014 Chevy Suburban through the state bid to replace a 2001 Ford with 99,000 miles. Cost is $38,920. This is for our emergency management department. Item 7.13 is a purchase of a 3/4 ton Chevy pickup through the state bid to replace a 97 Ford with 148,000 miles. Cost is $27,000, and this is for the fleet division in our public works department. Item 7.14 is purchase a 3/4 ton pickup through the state bid, replacing a 2002 Ford pickup with 115,000 miles. Cost is $29,000, also in our public works department. Item 7.15 is a $125,508 bid award, and that does include a 20% contingency to Karsner Contracting for sidewalk replacement on St. Clair from West Main to the Singing Bridge. Item 7.16 is to declare 67 2002 Glock Model 22 handguns as surplus and trade, and then trade them to Kessler's Police Supply as credit toward replacements. Net cost is $7,236 and is paid from federal forfeiture funds. Item 7.18 is personnel. We have a number of appointments, transfers, and promotions. The first is an appointment of Vernon Elkhorn to as Public Works Tech 2, effective 8/27/13. The next is transfer of David Jones from Administrative Specialist to License Enforcement Officer in the Finance Department, effective 8/13/13. Promotion of John Hayden, Fire Battalion Chief, to Fire Assistant Chief, effective 8/27/13. Promotion of Wayne Briscoe, Fire Captain, to Fire Battalion Chief, effective 8/27/13. Promotion of Ben Boggs, Fire Lieutenant to Captain, 8/27/13. Promotion of Brad Kays, Fire Sergeant to Fire Lieutenant, 8/27/13. Promotion of Casey Watts, Firefighter EMT 2 to Fire Sergeant, 8/27/13. Promotion of Rob Richardson, Police Captain to Police Major, September 1/13. Promotion of Walter Martin, Police Lieutenant to Police Captain, September 1/13. Promotion of James Ebert, Police Sergeant to Police Lieutenant, September 1/13. Promotion of David Shorluki, Patrol Officer 3 to Police Sergeant, September 1/13. Resignation of Jesse Bessinger, Wet Weather Coordinator, effective 8/16/13. Resignation of HR Director Randy Donahue, effective 8/26/13. Resignation of Amanda Roberts, Telecommunicator 1, effective 8/9/13. Retirement of Fred Deaton, Police Major, effective 8/31/13. Permission to make up to 5 conditional offers of employment for the position of firefighter EMT recruit. This will be contingent on successful completion of background, medical, psychological, polygraph, and drug screen examinations by each candidate, and permission to make a conditional job offer for the position of E911 Telecommunicator 1, subject to successful completion of psychological, polygraph, and drug screen examinations.
Thank you. Entertain a motion to pass the consent.
I move that we adopt that consent calendar.
Moved by Commissioner Bowers,
I would like to see us give a new dog tag to Johnny, though. Mr. Frazee to hang around his neck. Okay. I move adoption.
moved by Commissioner Bowers,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Hedden. Consent calendar is adopted. Next item, we have a board appointment. Would like to reappoint Dr. Scott Green to a 4-year term for the Frankfort Plant Board. This would be his second term on the plant board. You've seen his
I move we accept your
resume.
recommendation.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowers.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bowers, second by Commissioner Haynes. Thank you, Commissioner Haynes. Anyone have questions? Not. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Roach?
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowers?
Yes.
Commissioner Hedden? Commissioner Hedden?
I heard you.
Oh,
Sorry. Yes.
Mayor May?
Yes. Thank you, Commissioners. And thanks to Dr. Green for his service. 9.1, discussion of city employee health insurance options.
HR Director Fields, Mayor.
I'd just like to confirm the Commission's direction provided at the working session on August 12th. During that working session, we received direction from the Commission to make some changes to make some changes to the health plans for city employees with respect to what we call Plan 2 and Plan 3. Plan 1 remained unchanged. There is a handout that went to each of the commissioners to describe what those changes to plan design and plan premium are. In addition, there was a request to change or to create a plan limitation which said that spouses may be covered as secondary or have secondary insurance if they do not have, if they have the opportunity to be employed, the opportunity to be insured through their employer as their primary coverage. So that was a little muddled. Let me try that again. If a city employee's spouse has the opportunity for coverage through his or her employer, then that spouse must take their employer's coverage as primary. They may, however, take the city's coverage as secondary.
There was, can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
I think we all got an email sometime after that meeting to consider a surcharge for those spouses. Is that like not a good idea?
We actually took a look at that. It was one thing we considered prior to that employee suggestion and took a second look at it following the employee suggestion. And in the last 18 months, the cost per spouse on average is $465 per month. So we believe that to recover the cost, the surcharge would really be cost prohibitive and not really a viable option for our employees.
Okay.
Ms. Fields, the one question I had was, and I think I've had it answered because I've checked a couple of things, but when you talk about under a qualified plan, that would also include like if they were under Medicare or things of that nature as well, correct?
In terms of secondary coverage,
No, ma'am, in terms of they would, if they're primary on an employer's plan, obviously they're secondary under us, under spouse, but I'm saying if they are on Medicare or they are on some other type of thing that's different than where they're working for a company where they're under an employer, would they still be secondary on us?
I am not sure that the city has made the determination on that. I will say that in reviewing UPS's stand for Medicare, then they would not have to have Medicare to be primary. UPS, if just looking at them as kind of a recent precedent, they are allowing spouses who are on Medicare to still maintain the UPS coverage. So in terms of our city handling, I do not know if we've actually addressed that particular aspect. But really, that's more if you can have your spouse on or off. And they were saying, yes, your spouse can still be covered. Really, I do believe that if you've got Medicare, then that is going to count as primary and the city's going to be secondary. That would just be the way the coordination of benefits would work.
So it'd be the same thing in fact?
Yes.
Any others? All right, well, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, next item 9.2 is going to be the item that was previously listed under consent as 7.2. Commissioner, did you want to ask questions about this?
I guess what I'd like to know is, and it may not be possible, but when we buy vehicles to replace, I remember I'm new, so I'm learning. I learned a meeting or two ago that we get a really good deal for new vehicles. It's really better than used vehicles for the most part. So therefore, that makes sense to me. What I don't seem to understand very well is what goes in, and what do we have a formula or some sort of details or policies about what goes into replacing a vehicle? And I understand that you can say, well, it's now costing too much to repair to keep it. Do we document how much it's cost to prepare to say, well, it's now costing us $2,800 a year, and under our formula, then we need to replace it? What I'm nervous about is, like, if you see a vehicle that has 76,000 miles on it, well, you know, somebody that doesn't know a whole lot about it is going to say, well, why are you getting rid of it? I also understand that they idle a lot, and so that may cause more wear and tear on the vehicle. I'm just wanting to make sure we're getting as long a use out of our vehicles as we can. I talked to a private contractor today that is involved in a big company that has vehicles that run all day long, and they idle them all day long. They don't get rid of theirs for 250,000 miles. They also have their own, like we do, their own people that can maintain them. So I realize there's not a magic answer, but I'd kind of like to know what goes into whether or not we decide to replace a vehicle or not.
Red Chief.
And I think, and let me also say, not to cut the chief short, and I want him to come up here and tell us, but I think different departments would have different criteria. And that the police department's going to have a different criteria than other departments would have. Like I said, I think my point is I want to make sure we're not buying new vehicles that we don't need.
Yes, sir, I agree with you on that. Generally, most of the vehicles for the other departments are run through the central garage. It's run through Public Works. And Mr. Chapman, who's a garage superintendent, they keep detailed records on these vehicles from sewer and parks and the fire department and basically everything except the police department. So they keep detailed records on, repair records on that. And of course, we keep our repair records because we use the state T1 garage for us. But most of the time, it's a recommendation from the garage superintendent as to the serviceability and reliability of the vehicle that's to be surplused, along with the department head's recommendation.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Does our garage give us a report?
Is it what?
Does our city garage give us a report on vehicles that are frequent flyers?
We used to get that. Do we still?
Since I've been here, no, but that, I just made a note for myself to contact Tom Bradley and Mike Chapman tomorrow to talk about our vehicle replacement policy and to see if we can establish something for the commission's review, as well as maybe a monthly report or a quarterly report on our vehicle status and what kind of investment we are putting into those in terms of repairs and maintenance.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Chief. Appreciate that, City Manager, Mr. City Manager.
So, anybody else have questions on the item? If not, we do need to approve that if everyone's in agreement.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Head and second by Commissioner Haynes to approve the purchase of a, bear with me, a hybrid biodiesel.
Yeah.
My eyes are not focusing on this. Where is it? It was item 7.2, but
It
it's.
is a purchase,
But what?
2 replacement four-wheel drive Chevy crew cabs
Okay, Chevy.
for a
Cruze.
total cost of $55,320, and this is through the state bid.
Okay. Okay, motion and seconded, and if there's no further discussion, is there any discussion? Clerk, please call roll.
Commissioner Roach?
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowers?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes?
Mayor May?
Yes, that is adopted. Next item was item 7.17 to deal with an additional $5,000 contribution to the senior citizens. Commissioner Roach, go ahead.
I guess I asked this to be discussed, and my reason for this has nothing to do with, I think it's a great organization. I think we ought to be a bully pulpit to try to get them more money. And if we've got the money, give them money. But we have I think we're in danger of giving this money, because what we did is our treasurer, or our finance person, Steve Dawson, he looked to see what the percentage of their operating budget was, because there was a shift in some of their costs to another agency. And so when he did that, he actually increased the percentage of their operating budget of what the city gives them. It went up a little bit. He was conservative about it, but we also had to shift money to another organization that was funding that. So if we give them $5,000 more, then my fear is there'll be a line of other nonprofits wanting greater money from the city, and I think it's best to stay with what we've been doing the last number, I don't know how many years it's been, where we pretty much held constant what's being allocated in this area. So even though I'm a strong advocate of this organization, I do not believe that we should give them $5,000 more.
Commissioner Haynes.
I just want to make sure that I understood that we actually decreased theirs from what we gave them last year. And all we will be doing is giving them exactly what we've given them in years past. And I've heard their pitch, and they are hurting and need the money, and look like they're taking care of more people in Franklin County than the other organization, which is where we moved that money to. So I just think we probably should have looked at that a little bit earlier before that money was moved, but that's water over the dam, as they say. But I do support them getting the same amount that they've been given in the past.
Any other discussion?
Well, can I have a question, or ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
I mean, they came to us before we dealt with the budget with this request, but did I understand you correct, Commissioner Roach, that we kept their percentage?
It actually went up. We
of
gave
their
them more money.
operating budget? We gave them a higher percentage
Yes,
of their
ma'am.
operating
Yes, ma'am.
budget than we have in the past?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the actual dollar went down, but the percentage of their operating budget we increased?
Yes, ma'am, to the best of my knowledge.
Mr. Dawson's not here, right?
Well, he sent us emails on
He just
that.
stepped into the
I
hall.
think I saw him, he was here. Oh, he did leave?
But to the best of my knowledge, and we've got some emails on that, I also think Commissioner Haynes is correct, and that is they do serve more people. But what we did was just use the same size of the pie. So what happened was that their organization's operating costs were shifted to another agency, a portion of them, and so we gave that other agency some of that money. Now, this organization does have tough times, economic times. I agree with that. Like I said, I think we should be out there trying to raise money for them. I just don't think this is a good precedent, but I understand other positions as well.
Well, we did get this request before we actually gave the final reading. Actually, before we did the first reading on the budget, we got this request. So I guess what I'm saying is I kind of agree with you. We should have dealt with this in the budget process, because I think we will open the door to being hit up for more money from other agencies as well if we do set this precedent. I don't remember whether we actually addressed that request that came to the board.
I think the confusion, Commissioner, I don't want to say confusion, but the issue was that there was another agency that was going to deal with one of the functions that the Senior Citizen Center Council on Aging was doing, and it was felt by city staff that they would just shift that $5,000 for that service that was being provided by the Senior Citizen Center over to the other agency. And then it turned out later that I think there might have been some problems with the delivery of services, correct?
There was some discussion about
And that was why the Senior Citizen Center came back and asked if we could restore that funding, because they were still having to step up and provide additional services for less money. Is that correct? That's how I understand it. And still, our finance director's not here, but do you want anything else? I want to make sure that I relayed that to you correctly. So do you want to?
I don't have anything further. I know Finance Director Dawson has addressed it a couple of different times, both in our meetings and in the emails to the commission.
I just want to be sure that what I passed on was correct. Commissioner Haynes.
I just want to get a clarification. I'm looking at the agenda today, the financial analysis, and also the last statement on the background. Because of the increase in the senior center's operating budget, is recommended to continue the same level of financial support. This is Mr. Dawson's recommendation, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And in the financial analysis, although there is a $5,000 impact in 12-13 expenditure, the $5,000 expenditure would not result in actual expenses exceeding the budgeted expenditures for that period. I'm not really unsure, for that period. I don't know what.
12-13, last fiscal year.
Okay. Thank you.
That's because we were under budget in some areas.
Okay.
Is everybody okay?
So do we have a motion and a second to approve?
Not yet.
Oh.
Well, I move for approval of the $5,000.
Moved by Commissioner Haynes.
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Hadley. Any further discussion? So now, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Roach?
No.
Commissioner Haynes?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowers?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes.
Mayor May?
Yes. The item is approved. Next, we have, sorry, is there any other old business that any commissioners need to add? Commissioner Bowers?
It was recommended to me that I give this example instead of the one I gave earlier, so may I do that so that y'all have 2 days, 3 days to think about this before we come back on Thursday? And I have used this analogy in other settings when I explain it to people, and I forgot to use it tonight, so thank you, Berea. But the analogy that I should have used, rather than saying, imagine me a gay man inside of a woman's body, is this. Gender identity protected class. The way it's written is equivalent to the protected class of race, saying you are protected as a race as long as you're not, pick one, white, black, pick one. Or religion, you're protected in religion as long as you're not, pick one, Hindu, Christian, whatever. So, Ms. Ernst reminded me that I have used that analogy, and I should have used it tonight because it's the same, it's an analogy for what we have on that. So I just put that there because it's old business from earlier this evening for people to think about before Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Roach.
Real quick, so much was going on with the earlier ordinance, I forgot one item, and that is, we had something brought up about the petition. Well, we have looked into that, and I think the Kentucky League of Cities answered that they weren't sure if it was something that could be put on a petition. And have a petition, or excuse me, on the ballot, I'm sorry. And I didn't know if Mr. Moore had anything on that, anything else or not. Besides, we don't know.
You know, I've looked at the statute before, and the statute indicates that it's a public question as specified by statute, but then there's no definition in the statute that states specifically what a public question is. So if you want me to do more research on that, I can.
Well, I would ask that you do. I read that also and couldn't understand it.
What I would do is I would look at the AG's opinions and see if there's anything there that provides some guidance.
Thank you.
I think to answer what I think too is because Kentucky's not really a proposition state, that they're probably going to say that you can't. For example, California has a number of propositions they put on the ballot. And in Kentucky, typically those have been reserved for wet, dry elections or constitutional amendments. And I don't know if I think that's probably why there's no clear-cut law on that, or not clear-cut law, but interpretation on it. But I think.
And I would say you're probably right, Mayor, but I'll look in the AG's opinions and see if there's confirmation one way or the other.
Otherwise, we would just have citizens putting propositions on the ballot every time that, like they do in California. Whether that's a good thing or not, I'll leave it up to you. But I think the five of us were elected to make sometimes extremely tough decisions on behalf of the folks that elect us, and the way that they make those changes, if they think that some of us are not doing a job that the community would like us to do, then they let us know at the ballot box.
On election day.
Election day. And that just goes to see who can get their folks out the most on that particular day. Does anyone else have any other old business? If not, then new business 10.1. And this is to authorize the mayor to sign all documents associated with the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority Assistance Agreement for a state revolving fund loan, and all documents associated with the loan to fund proposed wastewater improvements associated with the construction of a wet weather detention facility located on property adjacent to the wastewater treatment plant. If there's no question, this is going to allow for the follow-through on the $8 million loan that we proposed, that we approved earlier.
Move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Haynes.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hidden. Is there any discussion? Not, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Roach?
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowers?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes.
Mayor May?
Yes. And 10.1 is approved. Any other new business?
I move adjournment.
No. I have new business, please.
Oh, you
Okay,
do?
well, I won't recognize it at motion commission, if you don't mind.
Don't recognize.
Go ahead, Commissioner Hidden.
Thank you. I had a phone call just the other day, and I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to put an email out to Chief Wilhoit, but the concern is speeding. And I figured I'd just bring it up tonight since I'm here versus send an email and it's going down. The concern is on Lions Drive, and they think that they're trying to race up and down the road. And I know speed bumps or speed humps aren't really an option with the weather that we have in our state with our snow plows. That when it snows and you put salt out, that we try to scrape the road, and those speed humps kind of get in the way, and we end up destroying them, and then we just have to fix them, and it's an ongoing cycle. But I didn't know if we've had a chance to look at any maybe flashing lights or radars in certain speeding areas, school districts or something, to let citizens know how fast they're going in certain residential areas.
Do you address that, Chief?
I'm sorry, Chief, thank you.
Okay.
I know the last commission we had talked about over at Arnold Ridge, where there were some wrecks.
Right, right. We can do a traffic study, but also we can increase our radar enforcement in that area. Lions Drive is a traditional honey hole for tickets. Lions Drive, Sunset Drive.
Yeah.
Ticket a day will keep the sergeant away, so I can send some officers out there for enforcement.
Well, thank you.
But we can also do a traffic study. If you will get with me later on and give me a specific area,
Okay.
we can do that.
Perfect. And the other concern was that there aren't sidewalks. I know Tom's not here, so I'll just send out another email. Maybe I'll get a response. Or we can just discuss further. I forgot to bring some other information up regarding sidewalks the last time about where we are. We kind of got sidetracked with the downtown bump outs, and an hour later I forgot to bring other things up. So if we can just maybe add sidewalks again to the next work session to kind of catch everyone up on where we are in the process, and possibly the idea of grants and bike trails. Is that okay?
Sure.
We're done.
Can I add something to that, Commissioner?
ahead.
Just
Yes.
right along with her thought. I think that Tom is checking on this, but if we could find out if that money that we have in that we get in municipal aid that goes toward sidewalks, I think the jury is out as to whether or not any of that money can be expended for bike trails or bike paths, and I think clarification on that might be a good thing to know.
Yes.
Because I don't think we know whether we can use it for that or not. And whether we even should or not, but it'd be good to know.
Excellent point.
All right, we'll have those all prepared, and maybe you'll get a memo before the commission work session, probably.
More than likely you will.
I thought that might be the case. Any other new business? Any more threats?
You ready for adjournment?
I was thinking I want to make any more threats against us tonight. Open the floor back up for it.
I move adjournment.
Don't mean anything to insult anyone,
Second.
just a joke. Sorry. Moved by Commissioner Bowers. Second by Commissioner Haynes. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call roll.
Mr. Roach?
Yes.
Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
Mr. Bowers?
Yes.
Mr. Hayden?
Yes.
Mayor May?
Yes. I'm sorry, I wasn't like directing that towards. Because it could go either way. I'm just saying. I did. It's like if you.
Would you like me to carry it?
I'm not sure.